Mr. Vice Mayor, it is 5:09 and we are live.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the City Commission Budget Work Session number 5, Monday, August 29, a little after 5. And Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes. Mayor Betty Resch is on her way. Vice Mayor Christopher McVoy.
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Maliga.
Here.
Commissioner Kimberly Stokes.
Here.
Commissioner Reynaldo Diaz.
Here. And if we could have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Stokes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, I am guessing that at this point, we will turn it over to our Finance Director, Mr. Bruce Miller. To at least get us started. He seems to have a rather thick stack of things.
Yes, and everything that we've already gone through. So tonight we have 3 things that I would like to discuss with you. The first is the supplemental budget request. Hopefully you have some time to be able to go through and pick some of the items, evaluate some of the items that were identified. The second, we'll do the fee schedule. You have not had the opportunity to look at that yet. So I suspect that we'll get, we have changes. You have those changes in front of you, but we'll go through the context. I suspect that you'll want a little bit more time to review it. And then you have the first public hearing on that in sequence with the other budget items. And then finally, we'll work with the CIP, the capital improvement program, and identify any changes in the ARPA conversation that we had, and then go through the rest of the items that are on the CIP list. All right. So with that, I ask that we go to the supplemental budget request. And I sent to you probably about 2 or 3 weeks now, the criteria that we're using. It was the same criteria that we used for the capital improvement program. And your homework assignment was to go through and rate those different items relative to, basically scoring. So with that, I assume everybody has, and we gave out copies of the supplemental budget request. So if we can go through that list right now, that would be great.
It's possible that this may be true confessions time.
I suspect so.
All right, and then we're on the same page.
What you're about to tell me is not surprising. So the first was to create a capital reserve for cemetery projects. That was $45,000. We're also going to be using that for one of the cemetery projects on the CIP this year. This is $62,500 for the gates and whatnot. The next one is the policy and procedure. Well, let me ask you this. How do you guys want to proceed? Do you want to put your priorities up top and then we can discuss the priorities? Because we've already gone through.
Right.
So there's no sense in me reading the list again. I think it might be more advantageous just that we have $309,000 basically to work with. So that's up top. We started with $554,000 in excess revenues. We took $45,000 away for the cemetery reserves, and then $200,000 for the 1/5, that we're going to do year over year over year for the taxes.
Mhm.
So that $200,000 going to go to the
That
program.
was, I may be spacing out, the 200 was to set aside for roads.
From the fuel tax.
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah.
Like 20% of what we get from gas tax, our goal over 5 years, we can,
Build that
the
up.
gas tax will fund our continual maintenance and repairs for the road program. So we're working our way up there.
So you have you have $309,000 to work with. So,
Which is good, because we have a total of 3.5 million that we'd like to spend.
yes. Your math is like mine.
Well, I think we are going to take 3 million of that off the table right away, but that still leaves 300,000 for $500,000 worth of expenditures.
And again, remember that we're trying to put away money in the rainy day fund. You're starting to see nationally anyway, that real estate values are starting to come down. So there are indicators in the economy that that's going to start happening. And when we, the city of Lake Worth Beach, realized a decline in property values, that goes to our revenue. That's directly related to our revenue. So prudence would tell you to build up that rainy day fund so that we have the opportunity not to, have to severely diminish services as we work through that.
So given that the pot to work with for the rainy day is 300,000 and change, how much of that would you put into this rainy day fund?
If it were me,
All of it, yes. Look who you're talking to, though. It's finance.
thank you for. Okay, so we can move on to the next.
No, I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. The first is, at the end of the year, if departments have unused money, that drops down and we collect it somewhere and we have that set aside, right? That doesn't roll into this.
No, at the end, yes, but let me just clarify. So you have revenues.
Excuse me, Bruce, speak into the mic so we can hear you a little better.
All right. You have the revenue stream and you have the expenditures.
Mhm.
All right, if you collect more revenues than you budgeted, they go into your savings account, fund balance.
Right.
Okay,
How much of that did we end up with this year? Anything?
yes, we about $300,000, I believe,
So it's safe to say that we've already put $200,000 to $300,000 away into,
in fiscal year 21. I don't know where we will finish for fiscal 22 yet. The amount of money that we put into the fund balance for the size of our budget is pretty razor thin.
Mhm.
We don't have a whole lot of, excess revenue. So the fact that we do get $300,000, but that's a combination of the expense side and the revenue side. So on the expense side, sometimes you have overages too, and that's the budget transfers that we do, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't spend all your appropriations, they too fall to fund balance.
Mhm.
So it's a combination of revenues and expenditures. But the city does not, as a percentage of budget, it doesn't have a lot of money falling down in the fund balance every year.
Right. The other question I had was, when we made the assumptions for this level of service budget, we assumed a certain rate for the sheriff's contract, but aren't we coming in lower than that rate?
Yes, we are.
So I feel like that gives us a little extra cushion to work. I don't want to take that savings and then say, let's spend it, but I feel like that gives us a little extra cushion.
No, that's very true. That's very true. And you'll see that when I present the next budget, the final budget, you'll see what those new numbers are.
Okay. Yeah, I went through this and I started trying to figure out how to even get down to the 309,000 and found that nearly impossible. Well, impossible. I didn't get there. So I can't imagine trying to set a giant chunk away on top of that either right now. And then I had one other question about, because I know I've said before, that I think that the mobility plan is really important to the future of Lake Worth as we're doing our development to open us up for other funding possibilities. Is there any way we can get the CRA to go in half with us? Because I feel like the mobility plan, it would be beneficial to their goals and the development that they're also doing. So I think that would be a great partnership between us and the CRA if we could both pay half for that. I was wondering if William might be able to speak to that, if that is a possibility or anything that we might be able to do.
I'm going to defer to William on that and maybe even the city manager.
Yeah, I would like to hear what Mr. Waters have to contribute to that. William, are you there?
Yeah, hi, I'm
Hi.
here. I'm not sure my camera's working, but for the record, William Waters, Community Sustainability Director. The CRA does have some limitations on how their money can be spent under Florida statute, and the mobility plan would affect the entire city, of which maybe 30% of it is actually in the CRA. So I'd have to discuss with Joan whether we can defend their paying for half, or would it have to be a third, since that's the area that actually is encompassed in the CRA boundaries at the present time.
I would love to follow up on that. And I believe, Dixie Highway and like some of our major thoroughfares are in their district. So it feels like if we want to look geographically, or we're going to get the presentation on everything in mobility has to encompass. I'm sure it will go into the neighborhoods as well, but it seems like it would be pretty significant to the districts.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
Can we make a formal request that, I'm not sure quite who would do it, the city manager or William, but somebody contact the CRA and ask if they would be in at somewhere between a half and a third, preferably closer to a half?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
We might also want to, we should certainly pursue that first because it's our city. We might want to give a call to the TPA also and see if they have any access to any funds to help kick in. I don't think they would go for half, but they might possibly be able to do some.
Good evening. And hi, I apologize for being late. My bride, my poor sister has just, what was the question? Betty Rash has entered the room for the record. What are we talking about? If you just give me a little recap.
The mobility plan. So of the $300,000 that we have left, if we want
I'm
to
waiting
fund,
to get back up. I don't need backup for you.
yeah, if we wanted to fund the mobility plan, that's half of basically what we have left over. And I think it is critical for us to do it. And I was just asking if that's something that we could partner with the CRA on, because I think it's also critical to their development projects and their goals for what they're trying to do for the city.
What page are we on?
Just the top one right now. We
I
didn't
was
get
going to
too
get
far.
oriented.
Yeah.
We're on the supplemental sheet, Mayor, on the first page.
Isn't it?
And mobility plan is at the bottom, the last item.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. So that's 150.
Yeah.
And what, I really, this is an honest question. I'm all for, obviously we have mobility issues that we need to address. I just don't know what a mobility plan means. Is it including like the public buses and things that we can come up with? What is a mobility plan?
Would you like to take that, Commissioner Diaz?
Or Mr.
I'm going
Waters.
to take it. You're going to be getting a presentation from a young lady who is the mobility expert for WGI later in, I think it's 1st of October, early October. A mobility plan encompasses all things mobility, which sounds kind of oxymoronic, but it gives you an understanding of what types of mobility are available and would work best in the community that we have. It will take into account public transit like rail, self-driving cars, autonomous cars, ride shares, ride on demand, petty cabs, and on and on and on. And we will look at which options that are presently available and which ones are coming down the road that would be appropriate for Lake Worth Beach, and then roll that into capital improvement projects that will be done the second year of the planning process, so we can implement those improvements or have developers or investors who come to the city help build that infrastructure for us as they do new projects.
Okay, thank you. And does that plan that it also include like the expenses and funding and that sort of things? Or I'm getting an echo. Or is it
That
just?
will probably come in the second half where we actually identify projects and depending on the type of project, there may be grant funding or outside funding available for one and not the other. So we'll work on that throughout the process, but more than likely the funding options are going to come on the second year.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
And just to confuse everybody a little bit,
Good.
in our conversation last week, talking about the ARPA funds,
Mhm.
we did allocate $150,000 of the ARPA funds to the mobility plan. So essentially, if we use all that $150,000, this request goes down, of course. But I also recommend that the conversation that you were having, i.e. other sources,
CR, yeah.
be followed through with, because, that is funding that can help other areas.
Good.
And while we're still on that, William, could I make a request that when the presentation happens in whenever it is, October, would it be possible to make that a joint presentation from WGI, which is a consulting firm and builds things generally, and maybe somebody from the Transportation Planning Agency that might bring a government perspective to that, and also some awareness of other programs, best practices through the government side? Would that be possible?
Well, I can see if someone's available that night from the TPA and coordinate it that way. I know we had a fairly tight window based on your meetings, and I wanted to try to get a presentation as early in October as possible, but I'll do my best to have somebody from the TPA there not the same night. However, it is under presentations, and it sounds like you might want it moved to an agenda item, though you may not take any action. If you're going to want two people presenting and you might have questions of them.
That it might be good to have either two presentations plus discussion or one presentation plus discussion, something of that sort. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And should we invite the CRA to that since we're going to ask them to participate?
Yeah, I think they should be aware of.
Yeah.
Only if they bring their checkbook.
Well, I remember bringing the check from. Okay,
Yeah, I would be open to, 10 minutes is not a lot of time for
Right.
something like a mobility plan. So do we need to make that change now? Do we need to make a motion?
part one and part two, part
Yeah,
A and part B.
Well, the city manager sets the agenda. She's taking notes.
okay. Because,
Yeah,
We'll
I
work that.
think that's a good
Definitely
idea.
more than 10 minutes for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Was that the first thing you'll talk about? I apologize.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we talked about that we have a 300,000 roughly available and a 500,000 ask, which doesn't quite fit, but we got some help just now with the 150 from ARPA that we might have forgotten about.
Just going through the numbers real quick. If we shift the skate park to the capital program, and if I heard Commissioner Diaz correctly, that's contingent upon grant funding.
Skate park.
And then we move the spillway park also to the capital. That really brings down the operating budget request to $512,000
Minus the one.
minus the 150, which is going to be, which has been identified as ARPA funding on the CAIP. You're down to $362,000 as total requests and $309,000 of available funding.
The skate park, $1.5 million.
Okay.
so that was a placeholder because I had discussed it with Bruce and others, and this is something that there is a community ask for, and I suggested to have it on so that we could start thinking about it and start working towards it. But essentially, it's contingent, just like the Spillway Park improvements would be contingent on grants available. So I've been looking into a number of grants, and there's some that are pretty famous, like Tony Hawk is
Right.
a really famous skateboarder. They're usually and they'll And they range from, I think the majority of them range to, it could even be as simple as like, I think his foundation has something where it's like, as long as it's concrete and it's permanent and it's open to the public, they'll fund something like up to 40 or 50,000 if you had like it could be like an art piece / sculpture that is concrete and happens to also be skatable. So
And we'll talk about where that might go at some point.
that would
So
be
these are all discussions. I'm just getting
Right,
my
it's-
breath. The ultimate discussions down the road.
right,
Okay.
exactly. So
Okay.
they're kind of like placeholders, and similar for the spillway park, as we get the C-51 board, whatever we're gonna name it, and get going, there's money available from the district or the
Okay.
county and whatnot. So they're in there just as placeholders.
Okay, thanks.
Madam Mayor, Commissioner Maliger has her hand up.
Commissioner Maliga, good afternoon. I hope, sorry you're feeling ill.
I just don't know if I'm contagious, so I didn't want to.
I appreciate that.
I love this idea, Commissioner Diaz, that we had a gentleman in town who was who had a skate store. And he and I had a lengthy conversation about 2 years ago in regards to it. And he was 100% on board of finding funding. He said that there's no reason that any municipality should pay for funding on a skate park, that there are many entities out there who will gladly stroke the checks. When I brought this up to the city, I do know that somebody had mentioned something about legal being involved because of the fact that it's a skate park with concrete. But I'm 100% in support of us finding funding and placement for this. I think it's a great asset to the city.
Sure.
Thank you.
We hear asset, our finance director hears liability.
That's why we got the job we have and he has the job he has.
Yeah.
Hey, we skaters are pretty hardy, so the injuries are usually low.
Seem like the kind of recreation that we build that has like a lot of ongoing maintenance, like in
Right.
10 years, are we say, oh, our
Right.
skate park is falling apart. We need to
Right.
find $3 million to replace it.
And like Commissioner Maliga pointed out, I mean, there's literal, like some of these foundations literally have a instruction manual on how cities can do this. And,
And the cost is usually pretty low because once you put in the concrete, it's very low maintenance, believe it or not.
Yeah. Ms. Davis, I see your light on.
Yes, as we could look through the line items for the supplemental funds, I do have a question for Mr. Miller under the second category, city manager, policy and procedures consultant. Remind me what that is.
We were talking last during the ARPA conversation, I believe it was, that we would like to do ongoing studies in the community sustainability policies and procedures. So the outcome was put $100,000 into for funding each year. It may not be enough, so you may need a year and a half to get to a funding amount. But if we wanted to rewrite or to evaluate any policy or procedure within the city, we would have available funding to evaluate it and then come up with a
You need to hire
recommend.
somebody to help.
Third party. It would not be a position.
I don't know who's first. Let's see.
Well, I was first, but
Okay.
I had a couple questions, but that was one of them, the policy procedures consultant. And something that I do think is important is coming up. We don't have a lot of policies around financial incentives and things like that. And I think it would be important for us to put something in place that way. Anytime a development comes to town, we're not arguing over what's appropriate, what's not. We have experts, we have policies that help guide our decisions, just like we have a street naming policy now, and we have a traffic calming policy. We have policies that are meant to help us move forward all on the same page, vetted by experts, like running the city in a good way. So that I think it's important for us to start working on the financial policies that we currently don't have regarding development. So I think this would be a good investment and would be very useful well beyond the life of this commission. So I think but this is the kind of thing, if we don't use it all, because it's a contract position.
It's not a contract, it's not a
Consultant.
position.
It's a con-
You would be hiring a consultant.
Okay, but we do think we'd have to wait until we had the full, like, we couldn't get any
Oh,
work
no, no, no.
started?
What I'm saying, the thought process is if you throw $100,000 a year to a program, i.e. A policy review, there are going to be initiatives that are going to cost $30,000-$40,000.
Okay,
There's going to be initiatives that are going to cost $200,000-$300,000. This money would be going in basically into a dedicated source, if you will, so that 1 year, if you spend $30,000, the $70,000, if you didn't spend it, would go into, it would be available for appropriation the next year,
Okay.
so that you could build, so it may take a year or two to do a very comprehensive analysis on whatever it is, but at least you have a funding source
Mhm.
and you don't have to kick that can down the road every year saying, oh, we don't have the money, we don't have the money. Right. So you can get, you can do a very extensive or very limited based on what your need assessments are.
Commissioner Diaz.
Thanks for putting this in there. Yeah, it was a couple budget meetings ago where I brought up the need, if you will, or my desire to bring in, at this point, it has to be a consultant, has to be outside, because, Mr. Waters and our team, they have enough going on. And I think at that meeting, Bruce, you did a really good job of pointing out, just like having a rainy day fund and whatnot, this is something that we really should have. And we haven't, it's been a while since we've taken a hard look at our comp plan. But a lot of municipalities, a lot of places, they'll take, an annual look at our growth management policy or our fees and whatnot, and just see what can we improve. And I think the time now, it's super important, obviously, with the affordable housing issue that we're dealing with, and trying to encourage, good redevelopment in our town. I think it's worthy of taking a hard look at our comp plan, our LDRs, all our growth management policy, and just seeing, where can we iron out the kinks and make it more effective.
Mr. Waters, when's the last time that was done? If you know.
We had an evaluation assessment review that began in 2016 with adoption of comp plan changes in 2017. We did another comp plan update in 2018. We are due through the state schedule to begin evaluating or looking at the comp plan in FY24, which we are putting together or starting to put together what our thoughts are in terms of our next, it's called ear-based amendments. And that's the evaluation assessment report or review. And as for the LDRs, we're continually looking at those and making refinements and adjustments. But the major overhaul, that was the rewriting of the zoning code, was adopted in 2013. And then there were some significant changes done in 2018.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Goy.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with both of the suggestions that were made. One, and maybe they're somewhat related. One, that as part of this policy and procedure review, that we keep in mind looking at financial incentives for developments. How do we do that? Let's write something down on paper that we can all look at and be aware of. And definitely things with growth management, an outside review of what we have and make sure that what we have on the books is consistent with what this commission feels is important in the city. I think that is well worth putting some. Now, that said, since we're at, what were we last at? 352 against 309?
362.
Could we make it 90,000 instead of 100,000 to help get there?
You can do anything you wish, of course.
You.
But the reality is, if you're going to proceed with this,
It's going to cost.
arguably $100,000 is like.
So you want to take it from the library. I see what's going on.
There's also another side of it, is there are, public interest land use people that I'm close to. There are nonprofits like Thousand Friends where they, I think if we ask nicely, we can convince them to help us out and bring that cost down significantly to get it started. But Like Bruce, I tend to agree. It really should be a consistent revolving fund that we should have available
Okay,
every year, just in case.
so we're gonna just keep it at 100,000, Mr.
I
McCoy?
retract my request to lower it and we'll keep it at 100.
All right, so we're doing 100. Okay.
I had, oh,
I see that the finance manager has said offered to lower the 30,000 project manager contract.
Well, if we're going to do, I shouldn't say
How are we
that.
going to get there? No, I'm not being
Well,
serious.
let's,
Well, now that we talked about putting $4 million of ARPA funds into the ERP system, the need's not going to be as high, so maybe take it down to divide by half, even that down to 15.
when we talked about the ARPA the other day, did we set aside any money to hire an administrator to administrate the program?
That would be part of the $4 million.
Okay. Commissioner Stokes?
I had the same question about the project manager contract, so I'm glad to see that is able to be reduced. I feel like last year was a year where we helped finance get more staff to try to help with that workload. This year, I am hoping will be the year of the library where we can give them everything that they're asking for. I have a question about the promotional activities for 1,500. I know it doesn't seem like a lot for more ads needed, but I just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to look at our plan for promotions, for advertisements, and the state passed something, I think, within the last year, opening up the door for municipalities to perhaps see some savings in that area as we're transitioning to a digital age, paying money to print advertisements for every single bid that goes out when nobody goes to, I don't think a lot of the companies go to Palm Beach Post and look at every single place to see who's doing bids. I think there's our websites. We heard from the tow truck company that they all sign up to. And I think the restrictions, the state has actually lowered and loosened the restrictions for us. So I want to make sure that we're not paying more money and advertising things that don't need to be advertised for because it's obsolete and we don't have to by law anymore.
Would our clerk know that those new parameters as we go forward, Ms. Coyne?
Yes, I do have something saved, but if we don't do an actual ad, we still have to print something saying we're not doing an actual ad.
Oh, that's helpful.
It's kind of-
Well, is there a
Yeah,
way
I know,
for us
which
to
is
get
kind of-
actual numbers behind this? And so we can see the pros and cons of, because it's also through procurement for everything, right? So
But we do,
Are you talking about the adverts for the city clerk or just the rec?
just in general, I
Yeah.
have not looked deeply into this. I'm hoping staff can because they're the experts, but I know that it was recently passed this last year. So if there's opportunities for savings there, we should take them. That's all.
But one question to ask. So maybe Madam Clerk, can you clarify the $1,000 that you're requesting due to advertising? You're saying more expensive due to publication of the ballot.
Yes, but as it turned out, we then had all the advertising for the boards, which we hadn't counted on. So that will replace ballot ads for next year because there are board, I would think most of the boards have current members that are expiring next year. We're going to have to advertise again. We will be using that money for sure.
Can
So I
we
want to
strike
make-
that from the record? I don't think the members are expiring next year. Their terms might be expiring.
Oh, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor. I sit corrected.
That makes a difference.
Right. So I'm
But if
happy to we definitely have to fund that. I know we want to fund more advertisements for the recreation
Right.
department, which I think is awesome. We want to let people know what's going on, what's available. So just seeing these items reminded me.
yes, yes.
Oh, yeah, there's a way that we could potentially save money in other areas, not necessarily these line items, but
Okay.
I would
just wanted to make
like-
Sure it was clear.
Thank
Was it
you.
Required advertising for public hearing notices or
right.
things like that.
I think it's in that category. I remember seeing something also.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if-
but we
if
will
it's
definitely
been-
clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at this before, I was just like, it got down, it started high level 6 figures and then like 30, 50,000. And then I actually got down to, oh my gosh, 600, 1,500, like yikes. So even if it seems like a small amount of savings, I think anywhere we can.
Okay, so that comes under city clerk on the first page.
Well, that'll just be separate. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we need to fund, the city clerk already paid the money, so we have to pay our bills, or we're obligated to it.
Well, this
Okay.
is for next fiscal year, Commissioner Stokes.
Okay,
And in fact, I would be fine with taking out the $4,000 for the printing of ballots because we will not be printing any ballots for fiscal year 23. We will
Okay.
need that in for fiscal year 24, but we don't need to worry about that now. So I'm fine with taking that 4,000 out.
Save for
all right, we got 4,000 from the clerk and 15,000 from finance.
It's 19,000. We're getting in the range.
We're down to 343.
Where's the 15,000 for finance?
We're on the contracts, the 30,000.
30 down to 50.
I've got it. I see it. Jamie's not in the room. Well,
I was gonna ask him about the chipper.
we almost got rid of your chipper when you stepped out.
How critical is the chipper?
Oh, boy.
That was one I was like, really, I don't know enough to like decide without.
So we have one right now. This would help considerably, especially for emergency management reasons.
I think you said that last time.
Yes.
Can we get a guarantee that if we get you another chipper, that we will start accumulating mulch for residents up at the north?
I think we said that last time.
There always used to be a big pile.
It was mentioned last time.
Yeah.
Let me look into that, because that's a whole other,
But it wasn't great.
yeah, and again, you have to be careful what you're actually mulching and separate different things, because we can't use invasives to,
But
I'd have to look into that. I can't guarantee that we'd be able to do that. Because also we would need to have some type of program we put in place to have residents that would be able to go up there and get what they want. And
We
it's,
should ask around in the team, because I know we used to do it. I don't know any of the details. Were we careful about what we chipped and how we did it? I think it was pretty informal.
It was very informal and it wasn't really true. The quality of the mulch was sometimes a little dangerous.
yeah, you have to be careful what you're doing with that. But you wouldn't have to know about how long ago that was, would you?
I'm thinking,
Because it wasn't,
years ago.
I got in here in 2011.
Been a while.
It wasn't in place then.
I can ask around. I would guess that's similar to what the mayor is saying,
Yeah.
that range.
It was a while back.
Okay.
And then it was discontinued because people were not happy with the quality of the mulch.
Can we mix it with the seaweed? Because I was trying to figure out what can we do with all the seaweed at the beach, and I saw some people use it.
What
for
mixed with the mulch?
landscaping. I don't know.
no,
Mulch.
I'll let Commissioner Diaz take that.
I just kept thinking, if only we could do something with all this seaweed.
so the sargassum plays an important role on the beach. I know a lot of people don't like it, but it does need to be there. I'm gonna try and defend your chipper a little bit here, Jamie. How much mulch do we buy for our public properties? And I feel like 15,000, I feel like if we used what we took down, and we took a little bit of effort to take the pepper out and whatnot, and we use that on our city properties, I mean, it might pay for itself, right? If we're buying mulch.
You will definitely be able to use that in certain locations. Typically up at the beach and some of our nicer properties, we get the nice mulch for that. But some kind of medians, some of the planters, sometimes downtown, we can definitely use what we're mulching, depending on what it is, not palm fronds or anything, obviously, but we can definitely use those in different locations.
Do we have the staff to do the mulching?
It's our ground stuff.
Do they have time to do it?
Well, we're using a chipper right now as
Okay.
we speak. So it's our ground staff who's chipping a lot of the stuff that we're cutting
And then you
down.
just send it somewhere?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, because if we reuse that stuff for our properties, the ones where maybe aesthetics don't matter as much, it's environmentally friendly because you're reusing it, you're not sending it off to somewhere.
Correct.
And I think, I mean, I know how much bagged mulch costs, and if we're buying like cypress mulch and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's not environmentally great, but it's also really expensive. So I feel like, you know, with all the medians and the stuff we have in the city, if we use our own mulch, we would, the chipper should pay for itself.
Ms. Davis has your letter.
Yes, I was just looking at my notes when we were talking about the supplemental projects before. In my notes, I have here that we were thinking about excess funds. They're non-available for chipper for fiscal
Yeah,
year.
we were talking about using excess funds from fiscal year 22. And that, I think that's potentially viable. So we could expedite that now and take this off the
So we
list.
say 15.
Right.
Yes.
Man, it's a bonus.
That's what I'm talking about.
And this is off topic, but I just want to keep putting it out there about, we have outside people that do the golf course and stuff, the use of chemicals for, insecticides and pesticides and fertilizer. I've asked a couple of times to look at that, and I don't know if that's ever happened, but I mean, as it's running off into the intercoastal, I think we should pay attention to it. So I don't know how we can do that with the people that we, and I apologize, it's a little bit off topic, but while we're talking about wood.
Yeah, we started doing that last year. I know in-house for our ground staff, we stopped using like Roundup and some of that years ago. So everything we use now is organic. It's twice as much.
Yeah.
It works half as well, so we're using a lot more of it, but we're doing that because it's the right thing to do.
And what about the golf course?
I am not positive about the golf course because that is a contractor who does that.
Check that out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll go with Lauren.
Because when their contract comes up again, I was hoping that we could address that I don't know when that comes up, but I'd like to address that.
I'll go with Lauren on that because that is a landscape contractor that has that, and we don't deal with them through the grounds department. So I'm not sure what they're currently using.
Somebody could check on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yep.
So Bruce, we're down to 328.
Yes, ma'am.
We might make this work. Okay, we're sort of jumping around a little bit. Let's, community sustainability code enforcement up on the top of page 2. $30,000 to support intern services and training. Mr. Waters? Part-time. Who would that be? What would that be?
What was that question again, Mayor? I'm sorry.
That's okay. To support the $30,000 request to support intern services and for training. It's a part-time position.
Yes, we've actually found quite good success having interns, both from the high school as well as outside people who may be at the college, begin work with the city and then migrate to other positions within the city. As one example, one intern ended up becoming a planner. Another intern became somebody who worked in the building division. And we've had some past success too with interns assisting when we've had a lack of administrative staff in the code compliance division. So,
And $30,000 covers it?
pardon me?
30,000 would cover it?
That will give us an intern practically full-time for an entire year.
Okay. Thank you.
The only question.
Yeah.
The only question I would have with that, William, is we well, I don't know about we, but I as elected official do hear concerns about response times and overall response, sometimes from community sustainability with permits, with this and with that. Does using the interns and people who are pretty new at what they're doing, does that interfere with that, or does that work pretty well? What's just a little bit of a concern there?
They've been very adept at helping us with administrative functions so that people that we do have are able to be more responsive with both emails and phone calls. There's a lot of paper that has to be managed, organized, scanned, filed, and tracked in our department. And that falls on admin people. So when they're doing that and away from their desk, they can't answer the phone necessarily. So interns have helped us be a bit more responsive when it comes to emails and phone calls.
Okay, this says part-time. Is it a part-time or I think we said
Our
full-time?
interns have been essentially part-time. We've only had one that worked almost full-time. I think they can't exceed 30 hours a week. Otherwise they become full-time and we have to provide them benefits. So we keep them around 30 hours, 24 hours a week.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. So
The other question in relation to what you just said, William, you mentioned that there's a lot of paper that gets moved around. Are there any efforts or would there be under the new ERP, to try to really reduce the paper, not necessarily just to keep trees in the forest, but perhaps for speed and efficiency and keeping it all digital and searchable and all that sort of thing? Is
We
there
have
any-
migrated significantly to paperless. Some documents have to be done in paper form, some of the code compliance notices of violation and some of the orders from planning and zoning, but we've gone as much as we can under our current system to be online, fillable, online receipt of applications. And also the interns are helping us transfer the remaining building files to a digital format so that every person's parcel will have their building and property file available online. So we're chipping away at that, and that's 16,000 records, of which we've maybe done maybe 25% of them so far.
What happens after you digitize them? What do you do with the paper file?
Well, we do quality control. We were doing an outside consultant out of New Jersey who was the most cost efficient, and they changed our name, and so we had to go with somebody else or looking at somebody else for next year. We get rid of the superfluous stuff, but like historic plans that are paper or have some historic value or archival value, we do keep those. But we have been able to say the 4,000 that we've done, we've eliminated the paper by about 90%.
Great. Thank you. And going up to the Navaline upgrade to facilitate online bill payments of $15,000. Is that something we're still looking for? Would that be Mr. Liberty?
I think that's part of community sustainability planning and zoning, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it is. So do we need to talk about the $15,000?
Actually, you brought something up that I'm happy you did.
Oh.
Because if we are having a asserted conversation on our ERP system, I'm wondering if this is timely. Yeah.
Is that both of them? Because there's one, 5, 15, 30. Well, there's one on the front page
Yeah.
for Community Sustainability Administration, and then there's another one on the back for
No.
Community Sustainability Planning and Zoning. So both parts talk about the transition to online bill pay. So it's a total, it looks like a total of 25,000.
But one's contract services
Okay.
to facilitate the change, and the other, if I'm reading it correctly, is an actual upgrade in our computer system.
So do we need the $15,000? Is that something that's?
I'll
pretty-
defer to William, but I'm thinking if we are
Looks like they're-
talking about an ERP system change, then this may be $15,000 that we don't need to
Mr.
spend.
Waters?
The,
Mr. Warren?
the only difference though, Bruce, is that the ERP is down the line, and if this is an immediate need, we still may have to move forward with
Right,
it.
right. That's why I say
Yeah.
William is the expert, so I'll defer to.
Yes, we are. We ran into some fairly significant cost getting some of the building components of Navaline set up for online bill pay. And we're going to have to do some modifications both for the planning and engineering module as well as the business license or occupational license module. The cost may come down a bit when we get the whole transfer, as I understand it, to JP Morgan Chase. There may be some economies of scale or something that they're able to do that Bank of America wasn't able to do, but I'm counting on the fact that we're going to have to go the long slog route to get online bill payments available for planning and zoning and business licenses.
So we need the transition to the $10,000 in transition as well as the $15,000 in the Navaline upgrade.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Malega, do you have your hand up? Or are you just watching? I have my glasses.
Well, Madam Mayor, looks like if we're trying to get down to $309,000, we're looking for $19,000, right?
Yes.
To cut out.
To cut out.
We did skip over Bruce's additional 4,850. I had your back earlier. Now I'm coming after you.
We got rid of the project
Oh.
manager for 30.
We did. But all the,
Already.
Yeah.
I know.
Do you really need $4,800
The
of office
additional
supplies if you're not
supplies.
getting the person to use them?
So the additional office supplies are, it looks like a permanent request, so it's not just for like,
It's laptops because we're transitioning from the desktop to a laptop, et cetera, et cetera. It's by having those two additional employees, it's put a burden on our current, because there's basically an average spend per person.
So you really want the 4850?
And take it down to 4, but I need something.
Should we give them 4?
I suspect that 4850, he priced it out. He probably,
It sounds like a number that means something. So-
Yes, we
So we're
did
gonna be
price it
nice to
out.
the finance department to give them this full request.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, that was a question. I don't know what they're voting for yet. How do you all feel about that? The 48.5?
yeah, I think I'd give him 48.5.
All right, we're gonna give you the.
Otherwise,
48.5.
you'll,
Especially since you gave us the 15.
you still have
Exactly.
desktop computers?
Oh, God, I can't stand laptops.
What about 861? These are services,
Or second page.
second page toward the bottom, just above the skate park, spillway park. I don't remember what that is.
Let's go down. We were kind of going down we were at administration, more ads. And then we were gonna go get to the library. We did Navaline. We did this community sustainability 30. We crossed out the chipper. Sorry, Mr. Brown.
He's still
Um,
getting it.
He's getting another source though, another chipper. Okay. More ads needed for the administration rec. Did we keep that in or we talked about that?
We didn't.
Gonna keep it in?
Pretty small. Let's
Yeah,
keep
okay,
it.
that's fine. So now we're at library.
And I would say that there's been a lot of call for additional hours. And there's also been a lot of call for additional staff, both to cover the additional hours and just in general. So I'd be hesitant to go into that. Is there any negotiability with price of ebooks? Could we cut back a little bit?
I was wondering the same thing because we're increasing, we have to pay more for ebooks and regular books or no? There's two, I thought that they looked like two different items, but now they look like a duplicate.
Madam
So in my
Librarian, you
original
wanna come
one-
on up?
We have increase in price of ebooks for 8,700 and then increase
and
in price of,
10,000.
I think, books.
They're two
Right.
different.
Oh,
Well, they're
yeah,
two different funds.
But on the new one, it says ebooks twice.
Right, it does.
So
Books
I
and
just
library
want to
material.
clarify that.
Cindy Ansell, the library. It's two different funds. One is for subscriptions, which is like their because it's like newspapers and magazines. We don't get any of those now. That's all but it's gone up in price. The other ebooks, they both say ebooks, but the other are books that are online.
So if I apologize for not knowing this, but if I want to take a ebook with my library card, I download it onto my laptop.
Mhm.
and
Or
then
your
come
reader
on
or
to
your
the-
phone until you finish reading it.
Oh, there's no like
No,
fines for 2 weeks?
no.
Oh, all right.
No, and I will say about the magazines and newspapers, we now through the e-newspapers, we literally have subscriptions to every newspaper in the world.
And we can all
In the
access them?
world,
And we can-
yes.
How do?
You
let's have
just
a
click
training
on the
session
little,
How do
you click on the little button that says News Bank and I mean, they're newspapers from everywhere.
We've got to get the word out about our library. And this, I mean, there was a nice thing just came out on Facebook about the classes and stuff, but I
Yeah.
didn't know we had all
Well,
that.
we're committed now that we have, through the grant, the JAG grant, we were able to get our literacy programming specialist who's also doing our media and getting the word out. And so she's continually posting now about the things that are going on in the library so that people will know. But it's hard. It's hard to get the word out, but
One of the
we're
biggest
trying.
challenges we have found is how to get the word out there.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
that-
Instagram,
And now that Cindy's gonna have help and she's gonna be able to get the word out and having more events in the room with the kitchenette. Myself
Yeah.
included.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we really have tried to do our part with the grants, last year we got so many and I don't know if I'm crazy, but I applied for 2 more. So, but I am trying other sources as much as I can to get what we need.
What's the Biblio Arte author?
Oh, who's coming today? Who's coming next year? You want to know? Raphael Lopez, who's by far the most acclaimed illustrator that we've ever had. He's world renowned. So
he's here for.
he'll
the
be here
Biblio
for a
Arte,
week.
And then he comes to our library to do something.
Well, he comes for a week to visit every school
Okay.
in Lake Worth Beach. He visits and talks to the kids. If they have a parent night, so he talks to the parents. And then at the festival on Saturday, he's there and he signs books, and we don't charge for the books. And everybody that comes gets a book signed by him. And these illustrators are here for a week, and it's really for two purposes. It's to get their information to the kids, but it's also to get our information to this illustrator about our town and, how we support literacy. And we really do have relationships with all the illustrators that have come. They still watch Lake Worth Beach and what we're doing. So it's really long-term. And we pick illustrators that have a story to tell that our kids can relate to. So these are bilingual illustrators who usually have a story about moving to this country from some other place, who had maybe parents who thought art wasn't a career they should have pursued. John Parra, who came 2 years ago, he was the son of a grass cutter, a landscaper. His dad, mowed lawns. And he just wrote a book about that and sent it to our library because he knew that our kids could relate to that. So don't get me started.
That would be a fun one.
That's one. When is that?
Get them all back here.
March 11th.
March 11th.
And we've already got Raphael signed up.
That's
So
wonderful.
mhm.
And hopefully.
Madam Mayor, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
ma'am.
Commissioner Maliga's hand is up.
Chris Maliga. What's up?
Hi, what's up? I love that. What's up? I just wanted to interject with some of the funding that we are looking at. I think it's important that we try to fund as much as we can with the library. My question was to the city manager for the kitchenette. Did we get all of our questions answered in regards to legal and making sure that we were okay with building that kitchenette out?
Yes, I'm so glad. That's why my light is on.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see a light anywhere on here.
I know it's very frustrating.
We're thinking alike. So I did have a question related to that because I know we were able to find funding for the kitchenette. And I know Mr. Brown was instrumental in trying to make sure that he evaluates that area to ensure that that is a possibility to do. And I think we confirmed that, correct, Mr. Brown? Wonderful. But I do have a question on the new ceiling and kitchenette. Is this $3,000 including the kitchenette that we've already found funding for?
Well, I wasn't aware that there was funding already in there for the kitchen. I mean, I don't have it in this year's
Well,
budget.
surprise.
Well, yes. And we did simplify it so that it's basically countertop and sink, and we're doing, we're not putting in like a stove. I'm not cooking breakfast or anything there. So, smoke alarm issues. So, right. If we've got the money for that, the ceiling was just completing the ceiling project that we started.
And I think once we get that little kitchenette thing with a movable bar, I'm looking at using that room as a venue to rent out.
It's on the list under our fee schedule. The library room is there. They can rent as much as the library as they want.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh, it'd be cool. When I was at Broward, we did that a lot.
So could this $3,000 be reduced?
Well, that was what I had down for the kitchenette only, not really the ceiling. So,
Okay, well, we found funding
well, I'm glad.
already, so we can remove that.
But what about the ceiling?
Well, the work we have to do is, it says ceiling, but it's basically finishing off the hanging of the paintings that are going to go around their stripping that we have to install, and so that we can hang up the paintings.
Do
So
you still need that $3,000 then for that?
if we take the kitchenette out of there, I think we could probably get the rest of the work done for probably about, Brian's gonna kill me. $1,500 maybe, or
Well, if we've
1,200.
already found the money for the kitchen. If we found the money for the kitchen already, that's accounted for, and this $3,000 was gonna include both of those things. It seems like you don't need as much money, but I don't want to skimp yourself. I mean, it's
Yeah.
1,500 enough to do the job.
I think so.
Okay, another 1,500.
Very cool. I can't, did we say we were looking for 1,900 or 19,000?
19.
19,000.
Yeah.
We're down to 17,500.
Listen, Commissioner Stokes, every penny counts.
But we're almost done with the
So
list.
this appropriation, this 57,888 will provide us with enough staff to have extended it, to open up the library more. Perfect. Thank you very much. Great. Okay, moving right along. So we've reduced that by 1,500.
So what's the other
17.
contractual services instructor prices?
Well, we're going down, community programs.
Yep,
Instructor prices increase. Who's instructing who and what?
assuming that's Laura.
Well, that's community programs. I don't know.
It's leisure services.
Okay,
It's my understanding that. Right. It's my understanding, in speaking to Ms. Bennett, that some of the programs that they have, there's an increase in
which really
services.
not
as
surprisingly.
Everything else that's going up.
Okay.
Here we
And
go.
we have a guest speaker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Greg Jarrett, Recreation. Currently, we've actually offered, this is our first year that we actually offered yoga
Mhm.
at Bryant Park. We also offered self-defense at the Cultural Plaza. When we initially put in the budget for those classes, they were not currently what they are. So the fees for a yoga instructor, it's exponentially higher than when it was 2 years ago. We've just found it difficult to find instructors that are, I would say, cheap.
Should do it for the good cause.
I was going to say, I've been a volunteer yoga teacher for 20 years and I've been paid maybe once or twice. In this city,
I think
there are a
Karma's
lot of yoga teachers. I would.
Yeah, that I've had many instructors contact us that are looking to do classes at the beach, at the park, all over, but but they're not offering to do it for free.
Right. We had a regular yoga class going on?
We did. This year was our first time doing it.
About how many people came?
When we started, I can't lie to you and tell you it was a lot.
Right.
Yeah. So when we started, it was 4 or 5, and it's growing a little bit, but I think because of our marketing, it's not that great.
And when was it offered? I guess maybe not.
It was the first Sunday of each month.
Okay. So it was once a month.
Once a month.
Mr. Diaz?
So we essentially pay the instructor to host this class, no matter how many people show up, right?
Correct.
So
We charge for the program as well.
So, I mean, I'm gonna throw something out there because I am aware of a yoga class that was held at Bryant Park at one point, and we do have an ordinance against commercial activities, so they were stopped from doing that, and now that group has their class over at Phipps in Palm Beach. So we lost, maybe a dozen people or so who would come to our downtown because of that. I mean, is it advantageous for us to pay an instructor that way, or couldn't we, like you said, if you have instructors asking to host classes, like, could we partner with them? And then these classes are free, right? We're making them free.
They are not.
They're not. So like, if people who show up and pay their $10, why not, that goes to the instructor.
Directly to the instructor.
And we're
Can I interject, being the person who has a fitness facility?
Can Mr. Diaz
Can I-
finish his?
yeah.
Okay, I had my hand up, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, so, because I've done similar events with other things, not necessarily yoga or whatnot, but, we could be the partner, we could help promote, we can do all those things and like just have the $10 per person or whichever.
Which would be kind of like when Sally or Pat Hunter does their swimming instruction at the,
Great example.
now at the not
Yeah.
our pool, but at a pool. They pay directly, if you go, it's
It's like,
$6.
Us, they're a provider.
Right, right.
Mm.
Commissioner Boyd.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through any number of yoga training classes, not necessarily, some of them I've taken, some of them I just assisted teaching teachers. I don't know that we need to be paying teachers, especially if we're charging for the class. I think what Commissioner Diaz is suggesting is we simply do a certain amount of the advertising and let the instructors collect from students or look for volunteer teachers. It's both of those are options.
Yeah, I think we know you have.
I mean, I'm in agreement as far as coming up with some sort of partnership. It's just a matter of also the liability in that. So, they would have to sign some sort of a contract, or we would have to put something together that we could partner on.
Many yoga instructors are part of the Yoga Alliance and have an insurance through that. So, that may be a way also to help with that.
Yeah, as long as they were willing to, name the city as additional insured and provide us that information, I'm sure we could come up with a contract that would basically serve that purpose or serve the need of yoga instructor.
Just pay the instructor when they go. I think that it cuts down on our
Mhm.
expenditures. I think Commissioner Malega has her hand up.
Yes, I did. Thank you. That I was just gonna say, the problem is it's great to have somebody who wants to volunteer, but if they don't have their licensing, their CPR certification, and the city listed as a liable person, you get sued. So I do know that when this first happened last year, I met with Leisure Services in regards to a lot of the red tape that's involved. And for a yoga instructor to do all those things and to have insurance and to go CPR and to have those certifications, it costs them money. So of course they want to get paid. This, the people that we're hiring or the city has hired previously are not people who do this as a hobby on the side. These are people who this is how they make their living. I mean, I'm all for whichever way we go, just knowing that we have to protect the city is the main priority. I don't want to hire somebody who just says, yeah, I'll teach it for free. Not,
I don't think anyone
all the
is
licensing.
doing that.
I think the thing too is not in the sense that we're hiring them, but if they're going to take on the reputation of the city, what happens when that person is not showing when they're supposed to show, and they're not consistent with that class, then does it come back on us as Lake Worth doesn't put on a good yoga program?
You never know. Commissioner Stokes.
So I think we would need to have a good legal involved in the contract and everything else to make sure that they are obligated to show and they say they're going to show. But I wanted to hear more about the martial arts classes. I haven't heard of that. That's really interesting because even if we take care of the yoga part, I don't know how much of this is going to the martial arts.
Well,
part.
it's the same thing in the sense that we could do, we have sports providers. So we have a soccer sports provider within the city. So it would be the same thing as in a sense of going out and seeking a partnership with somebody that does martial arts, and then coming up with some sort of agreement. Typical sports providers, they provide up to 20% of each registration. So that's something that we could do as well, as we could try to find an instructor that would come in and provide martial arts under the umbrella of the city as a partner.
With the same kind of provisions.
Correct.
that would protect-
Correct.
How often is this program? So it's at the Cultural Plaza, you said?
It was, and it was only the same thing. It was once a month.
Once a month?
Yep. But with a provider, I mean, it could be more than that, depending on our availability or the space availability.
Or have it more frequent for a shorter time.
Does the cost get lower for us the more people that sign up and use it?
the cost in itself is going to be beneficial to the instructor. So the more, individuals they can get to sign up, the more beneficial it is for them to actually hold the class.
Right.
So they're usually going to be more motivated to spread the word and promote the program. So it's been proven to work. Like I said, we do have a great sports provider now with Storytime Soccer, and for the most part, does the same thing.
Thank you. So we give them their 4,000.
I don't know where we landed with this.
They're asking for 4.
So we don't know if we can actually go out and find a way to cut the cost down. But we're gonna try.
Yeah, I think that it's just like Commissioner Malega said, it's really the liability that's the issue. And can we find somebody that can provide us all the necessary information that we need, whether it be the licensing, the insurance and everything else? If we can, then that's not an issue. But if we can't, obviously we can't just hire anyone to come in and teach yoga.
Yeah. Or martial arts,
Or martial arts.
which sounds a little more dangerous than yoga.
Yeah, I'll point out, I've definitely heard, just from walking by, people have seen the sandwich board with the self-defense classes, and I hear a lot of interest in that. I don't know if that translates to people showing up, but I've definitely heard from a lot of people who are like, oh, that one seems really interesting. I can say from the nonprofit side of things, when I've done events and whatnot, getting GNL insurance and adding a city or, the vendor as a certificate holder, it's not a monumental ask. And I think for sure we have to be, picky on who our partners are. And I'm sure there's many local yoga studios, many local martial arts instructors who are businesses that probably, I'm going to assume, already have pretty good GNL insurance. So I think it's pretty reasonable ask to look for that.
Yeah, I would like to, okay, we're not programmers, but to me, it seems like once a month, it's like you kind of lose a month.
Yeah.
But if we did like, every,
Frequent.
yeah, I mean, if it's every
You need it weekly.
6 weeks, they have to start and then we can maybe do another class. Once a month, I think the enthusiasm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Can I, Ms. Davis?
Yes. So I just wanted to, I know this is a $4,000 ticket. We do need 17,500.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So
There goes yoga.
no, I'm not suggesting to pull it out. I know it certainly won't make a dent in what we're trying to extract from the list. So we've been on this for an hour and 20 minutes, well, maybe an hour now, because we started a little late. And we do have a lot of other things to cover tonight. So
Is the 45
we make
in
tough decisions.
or out on the cemetery?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
The 45
1,000 for the,
is included, $45,000 is going from revenues to the revolving fund, if you will.
well, but it's on this list as a supplemental.
Yeah,
It's up on top of the first page.
because I'm seeing the,
Well, it's double counted. You
that's
just-
what I mean. So
You
if you
just,
take that off.
you just
or we-
found your money.
All right.
What?
Can we take that off?
What?
Yeah, it's double counted.
Because
We
there's
found
another
it.
place it's
Man,
coming
you
from.
got some extra put in the.
In the coffer.
Give them a raise.
Our rainy
Eric?
day fund's going up.
Your
10,000 bucks.
4,000.
So my yoga
Good
is
for
good.
bringing, the yoga survives.
But keep looking.
All right, I
And
will.
weekly.
I will.
Good point, Mr.
Talk to either Ronaldo or me and because we can probably help you hook up. Piece for that.
So Bruce, help me understand. So we're saying that we take extracting 45,000 out of the excess revenues.
Yeah, if you go up, I started with our net revenues, then I subtracted out $45,000. Then I subtracted out $200,000 to get to 309. And then I took out $45,000 again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was, you did that just to surprise us and make us feel good that we found $45,000. Well played, well played. Okay, so moving right down, we're
I'm
down.
gonna run to the restroom. real quick.
Okay,
Okay. And can I just say, I'm super, anything that helps staff, the extra positions, spread the load. So happy we can do that. And the library stuff is, all the moms in my group and the kids that I deal with, that is huge. And I'm just so
especially these
stoked
days.
that we did that. Yeah. Because as a kid who grew up going to libraries, because we didn't really have much money for anything else, I mean, it's huge. So
I grew up in the library.
I'm happy to see the hours increasing on that library.
We were, yeah. And I want to thank Mr. Jamie Brown for the handrail. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Okay, I'm sorry, what?
I gave it an earthquake test.
Thank you, I appreciate it. It's been a journey. Okay, so we're down to the skate park we talked about, the maintenance.
We're done.
Building fund? Do we care? Are we going down there? Hybrid.
Where are we going next?
Bottom of page 2, under that bold line,
Right, so
Which
we're
one?
enterprise fund.
what says building fund? 14,285 for supplemental requests. I'm a little just confused how it's laid out.
So yes, what we're doing is then going down, these are all separated by funds,
Okay,
okay? So the next one on the list is the building fund.
right.
The building fund supplemental, excess revenues are equal to $14,000. And then what he's looking for is additional staff of $75,000 and vehicles, electric hybrid of $80,000 and miscellaneous equipment for $5,000 for a total of $160,000. But as you know, this fund has substantial fund balance.
Oh,
And
that's the
ma'am.
building. They have their own money, don't they?
yes,
Okay.
so it's a initiative, quite honestly, to hire additional staff. And so,
So we don't have to worry about this money.
no, but I just need you to say, yes, go do it, and we'll go ahead and do it.
Is it not correct that we actually are in a odd situation, let's say, with the building fund, that we have way more in the
So
reserves than we should?
That's what,
That's right.
yeah, we're trying to spend it down
Okay.
for legal purposes.
And I'll just ask,
Go ahead.
it's quite a bit that's in that fund.
It's not shabby.
The finance department knows exactly where I'm going. How much latitude a serious request with that is, would it be legitimate to use any of that excess, which I believe is on the order of 1, 2, 3, some million, toward the ERP, on the argument that some portion of ERP does get used for the building fund?
Yes, the ERP, the $4 million for the ERP.
No, but could we?
Let me get there.
Prorated.
Right now, the ERP, the ARPA funds are really for the governmental funds. So I suspect that once we start doing the ERP system, the building fund and the enterprise funds will contribute dollars.
Okay, so
So
I'm not,
you're not
crazy.
out of line now.
okay,
And William and I have talked about that already. He can't pay anything excessive, if you will. It has to be proportional to what the building fund is receiving. But
But he can use it for staff. He can use it for funding staff.
you can use it for funding. He can use it, and I should let him talk, but he can use it for any purposes that are related to the building activities, building fund.
Well, I
activities.
mean, from what we hear about short staffing and different things, it's like, why aren't we using a little bit more of their money?
Right.
Oh, if I might interrupt, it's William Waters. We've actually, as part of this budget, is requested to encumber $500,000 for the ERP program, or its furtherance from the building fund.
Okay.
we'll take it.
I was also gonna, I'm glad this is brought up because similarly, can we kind of do the same for the policy reform consultant? Because most of the policy we're going to be looking at is our building codes essentially. And I envision this dream team of William, Glenn, if I can join it, like if we had a monthly call with a consultant or whatever it may be, I think we can get a lot.
We're spending your money, Mr. Water.
Well, the city does not have much influence over what is in or in out of the building code. It is what it is, and it's governed by state statute, and it gets updated every 3 to 4 years. So having a consultant evaluate whether the Florida Building Code is appropriate or not, I would feel would be a waste of money because it wouldn't get us anywhere.
But
One
I-
bit more.
But there are things that we're talking about different land development, different policies and things.
Right.
Right.
Is there a way that one could legitimately justify spending out of the surplus building fund toward the LDR zoning comp plan?
No,
See the city manager saying no. Oh, finance minister is a no too.
No,
I'll
yeah,
bet
I
William's
think
gonna be a no.
William probably can explain it more eloquently than I. But as he mentioned, those funds are strictly for the building activities,
Oh,
Yeah.
not theoretically, not studies.
not for the land use and the other divisions of the department.
But if you don't have the right land use, you can't put a building on
So,
it.
but it seems like, I mean, if they have a lot of money, they should be hiring enough staff that because one of the, we do get quite a bit of feedback about,
Yeah,
no disrespect.
and we're
Time
working
and-
through that plan.
And I would say with this is my 2 cents. The code enforcement folks, a lot of people in the building department, they drive around in like pickup trucks and they're really just doing inspections. So I wonder if everybody needs a big old pickup truck. And if we're talking about electric vehicles, we could talk about smaller, more economic vehicles.
Well, I'll let William tackle that question. I think I can add to it a little bit, but I'll let him
Mr. Waters?
answer that first.
well, there's several reasons. One is that some electric vehicles are not able to make it down our alleys, and we have to do inspections there. We do pick up things that are rather inappropriate to put inside a car. We do need to have some redundancy and have some gas-powered vehicles in case we have no access to electricity. We can't rely completely on electricity or electric vehicles in the time of a hurricane. We may not have any to get.
That
And so
actually
we
was,
try to have a compilation of different types of vehicles for different purposes. But we are migrating to a preponderant, a heavier side of either hybrid or electric than we have in the past. And that's what our intention would be, is to get a hybrid vehicle.
right, but that was actually that, I appreciate that, but I'm just talking about. I just see a lot of, maybe it's just perception on my part, but I just see a lot of people driving around, code enforcement officers with like larger vehicles, and they're only one person driving around. That's
I
just,
understand, and we take what we can get. It's surprising enough through the contracts that Jamie, Public Services have been able to get. A larger vehicle is oftentimes far cheaper to purchase than a smaller one. And we are, migrating to smaller vehicles. We don't replace the entire fleet very often. So there's some larger vehicles that we're going to be in our fleet for a while until they are worn out and then replaced.
And Madam Mayor, also, if my understanding is correct, in talking with Mr. Waters before, we talked about that issue within the department. And also it's helpful because during storms or events, they do also assist in debris cleanup and assessments. So having the larger vehicles help in those cases.
okay, Mr. Diaz.
Thanks for bringing that up. Not to digress too much, but that just reminded me of a question I had, which is, do we have a idle policy? Because I noticed earlier today, I walked by a site and we had quite a few trucks that were just sitting idling on the street with nobody in it. And they were all like F-250s and bigger. So I was just curious, do we have an idling policy where workers, if they're not in their vehicle, they have to turn it off?
Were they from?
I know the sheriff's department keeps police cars running all the time.
Yeah, but they have a little bit more of an argument.
Well, no. And here comes Mr. Liberty
Uh-oh,
and Mr. Brown.
yeah,
It's an all-star cast.
yeah.
For the record, at Liberty Director of Public or the Electric Utility. And Jamie was following up in regards to the idling policy. A lot of the vehicles are in my department. We do not have an idling policy. We encourage them to not idle at trucks any more than need to. However, it's also a safety issue because that's a cooling spot for them. So in the case of our linemen, they're working very difficult under very difficult conditions. They're sweating like crazy. Their water's in that truck, and that's their cooling station when they come down off the pole. Now we don't want all 3 or 4 trucks in the crew idling all day long because they might want to get in them, but to have 1 or 2 trucks or idling nice and cool for them to get into would be helpful. But we do not have an idling law per se or a policy in the city. Where I came from up north, we did have a 3-minute, that was state law. You could
Oh,
not
really?
idle a vehicle more than 3 minutes, regardless of whether it was a commercial vehicle or a private vehicle. And local police departments would on occasion decide to enforce that. But that's not the law here. It's not the case.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. And Mr. Brown, do you want to add something to that or just up your decoration? Okay, great. Okay, always welcome. All right, so we are now on the next page, which we were talking about the additional staff, 75,000 and the electric cars. And the next one up, I believe, is the additional seats for Bluebeam electronic plan review. Is that?
Madam Mayor, we covered through all those items. And we said the total 160,000 can come from the building funds.
Oh, that's right. Okay, great. Oh,
Check.
Chunk, we got today.
So now we're.
So we're on the beach fund.
beach parking. Okay, beach fund.
I like this one.
I think we're
The
covered.
125 is bigger than the 64. Let's go.
Yeah.
So we're good.
Just for my own education, I'd love to know what the additional part-time staff is for. That's highlighted in green.
I mean,
Or-
Oh, here we go.
you know.
Yeah.
Ready to
Come
go.
on up.
Go ahead, Larry.
I literally like, but senior market manager, Ceiling Worth Beats. I'm just here to fill everybody in. I've already talked to Mr. Diaz about
Can
this.
you check the microphone? Don't think it's-
Louder, better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is basically for a new part-time position. Since I've been here since 2015, we've grown tremendously, and now we've also got a full-time person, full-time person that handles everything that comes into the parking office. They're basically being overwhelmed, and we need this to help cover like other times when that one person's gone out of the office, sick, that sort of thing. So it's more of like a need and a must than just not having anybody. So we gotta like basically, that's why I'm here,
It's only $15,000. So how it's enough to hire?
a part-timer.
Just to
part-time
fill
person,
in when you
just to
need it.
fill in, help out, cover different shifts whenever the person's gone, that sort of thing. Okay.
And I mean, I go up usually once or twice a day to the beach. I just
Mhm.
do my drive-through. And it seems like the parking lots are really quite full a lot of the time.
A lot of the times they are during the day. Sometimes they're not during the week, but weekends you can't get a spot.
You can't.
Especially when these snowbirds come down and people come down from the north. It's great. I mean, it's great. We need a lot of revenue from them.
He loves it.
Do we enforce the parking across from the casino? Every time I go there
Across.
to get a slice of pizza and I'm sitting out there, there's just cars parked. Usually I've seen fire trucks or other vehicles, but I'm seeing like cars actually parking.
We
along.
do. A lot of times those will be like city employees though, like Emmerich and different ones like go up and drop things off, pick things up, and they need parking for that. So
I watch people get out going to the pizza
we can.
restaurant.
We can force those. Yes, yes. We can and
Parking space for people to go to.
we can enforce that. Yes.
Should
And
we
try?
consider
I
like a drive up
spot.
like 2 spots or
Yeah,
something?
like even on the circle, which wouldn't really impede the, the little circle right there.
Yeah.
We actually have it easy for people to pick up pizzas or whatever. They can go to a meter. They just pay their coins, run up, get their pizza and come back too. There is. And we also park mobiles only, you can pay for 1 hour now. You don't have to pay for 2 by park mobile. So we actually reduce that
That's
for
all.
people.
With a pizza.
For an hour, you can pay for an hour. It's $3.
I'm talking about and maybe we're on the same page, but like a, 15-minute pickup. Free 15 minutes, we would.
Like most restaurants have like the signs, like curbside,
Right.
Chili's to go, whatever. It has like this, the signs there. But come in, grab your food and go. But
I understand.
we might need to look into this more, but I
Yeah, I would like
thought
that.
when I was there and I was like, my view, I'm there eating my pizza. I have my parking taken care of. And it was like the cars were parked there for, I think, the entire time. I saw a couple cars, not just city vehicles. And I would see like the city golf cart ride up. I'm like, oh, are they gonna ticket him?
And I think that
And then
helps the
I-
businesses up there too. because They have great food, but I don't walk that much, so I'm not gonna go up
Mhm.
there and by the time I get back to the things, it'll be cold.
It might be, it's probably something that's worth looking into because one thing that we have to do is protect that. It is an emergency lane, and when Ocean
That's it.
Rescue calls for backup for fire rescue, that's probably the only spot that their trucks will really fit.
But that
So,
little circle, like in the back of that circle
So-
at the south of the building.
yeah, like, to get a rescue truck like up to the beach, that's probably their key spot, I would imagine. Yeah.
Well, then go the other
Correct.
end.
Looking.
Excuse me,
I see your hands getting there. I just hand come up, Ms. Maliga.
Larry, I have a question for you. Is this gonna help cover after 5 PM or on the weekends? Because that seems to be a major concern with the downtown area especially. That as soon as it's 5 o'clock, we have no parking enforcement, or on the week.
Well, we have parking enforcement officers that do work weekends. They're out in the field. We don't have anybody in the office. So this is basically just to cover the office hours, like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. That's all
So
we
this
can.
is,
At
this
least
is not gonna add anybody for after hours or on the weekends.
no. Mm-mm.
Just a little
I mean, we
background.
still have
Right.
officers.
Just a little background.
Hang on, let me, fin-
Ms. Maliga?
how many officers do we have? Because when I've had issues and I've reached out to the director, I was told that there was no staff to address these issues. So who do we have after 5 o'clock Monday through Friday and on the weekends?
Oh, actually, I have 4 full-time guys and I have 2 time people. And that's all I've got. Okay, that's,
So
what-
is,
and I'm,
is-
let me finish, please. I'm trying to get to where we actually cover between like 6 in the morning sometimes and 7 in the morning, all the way up till 9 PM. So I'm trying to do that 7 days a week with just that few people that I've got.
I mean, I'm downtown, my office is down.
Mhm,
Those early morning, I mean, really, it's, early mornings are pretty empty, the downtown.
mhm.
So maybe we started later, we just, I don't know, but I hate to. It just seems like the early morning hours when I go to work.
I understand. I only have like one person on in the mornings. Believe me, I've looked
Because
at this
at night-
thing so many different ways and tried to cut and slice it. And, I bring more people in later and later as I can. So yes, I try to cover them all.
Did you have other things, James?
That pretty much covered it. I was just gonna point out the background, like the reason why this came up or is on here is because I've received a number of complaints about, we have one guy in the parking office and if he's entitled to his lunch break and stuff, and if he steps away, people get upset. They're trying to pay their ticket, so they're already upset.
Correct.
So we were just trying to make it easier.
So,
Share. So I'm confused. Like I wouldn't take a job where I get a 2-hour shift 5 days a week just to cover a lunch break.
No, we all stagger different times throughout the day.
Okay.
Okay.
so 21.5 for beach parking. Are we a yes on that? Since we saved so much money in.
Well, if you look at the total request is
64,000,
which is substantially lower than the 125 available. So
And then,
you can actually involve if that's okay with the commission.
Mr. McBoy?
I'm not quite sure if this is the right category, but does the beach fund cover the maintenance of the grounds? Landscaping,
This is
irrigation,
parking.
plants, is that under this fund or is that under something else?
I believe it is. I work in parking too, but yes, the maintenance guys are under us too, the leisure.
For the landscaping?
Mhm.
Is that,
I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah, they are.
and they are employees or are they outside contractors?
Both ways.
Right.
Employees.
This is just, since we do seem to have a little excess funds there, that's not a bad thing. Our finance director is probably thinking eyeballing that to put it in the corner somewhere, which is good, but there is sort of an ongoing concern about how well we take care of the native plants and landscaping for it. I've mentioned before that I don't know if it's been fixed since, because I haven't been there at night or I forgot to check, but A bunch of the bollard lights going down the path were out. Last time we were looking at night. There's mulching needs, there's sort of runoff needs, there's the number of things that could be. And the pruning of native plants. There's room for improvement in that, and I know it's been discussed and people from the tree board have worked on it, but if we need to fund a little bit more to make that work, I think that would be a good thing to do.
Well, what my recommendation is the whole where we are evaluated, and we can always do the supplemental appropriation come October, November,
If we need it.
if you need.
Should
Yeah,
we?
it might not even be extra funding. It might just be paying attention.
That's what, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it may be.
Commissioner Diaz?
Should we bring in Michael Singer in that conversation?
Say
Because
what, who?
Michael Singer, because he designed most of that.
I think we're talking about maintenance now, right? Though.
Right,
No, but
but you might
design-
have some insight on, how to fix it up. Should we include him?
Staff
I-
always
I-
like consultant with them.
Yeah.
I can tell you from previous conversations, I haven't talked to Michael in a while, but I've talked to Jason, one of his main people, and they are very unhappy with how we've maintained the beach. And so whether they would be willing to talk to us, you'd have to pay them something, but I think it would be worthwhile if we were willing to follow up with a serious commitment to really up our maintenance of that. Because it is a bit unfortunate how we
Sea grapes can be trimmed.
Oh, yes,
see grapes can be.
Yeah, because they're really blocking the view now.
they're great shade. So, yeah.
Yeah, but the ones on the top of the dune, it's like I drive up every day, you can't see the water anymore in some of the spots. All right, but that's, we're getting into like rabbit holes right now. So it looks like we're gonna approve the entire 64,774. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind knowing more what the vendor supplies increased due to COVID, but it's probably not worth.
And valley parking, what's the status of that?
It's supposed to be coming. It's going to be a seasonal item, I understand.
And
I'm
you're
working out with them, right? In fact, we're gonna probably get the people on board the Valley Company starting probably next month, September, kind of like a seasonal thing. It's busy.
Our court, that type, okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
Definitely keep an eye on some of those vendors, because I noticed the other night that one of the valet services had a few too many spots coned off, more than what was
Where?
agreed upon.
At the beach?
No,
Downtown.
on Lake Ave.
Actually, that's a code enforcement. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
so that's code.
Believe
Okay.
it.
That's, I think that's a conversation for another day about
Yeah.
the downtown.
Thanks for pointing that out.
We're not planning
No
valet
problem.
at the beach, are we?
Yes, that's what we were talking about.
Okay, I'd like to be, should we have a presentation or?
Well, we wouldn't be funding it.
No, I understand, but I mean, I'd like to know how many spots are taken up during peak hours, or people have to pay additionally money to valet, and that takes spots away from everybody else that's already just.
Good question. One of the problems that they're having up there is that night, especially during turtle season, it's really dark. If you're eating up at Benny's or at Low Play or any of the other places, to go, if you're parked down the lower parking lot. Sorry about the echo. It's really dark and scary to get down there. And a lot of the older people, I believe there's a need for, we can.
So this is after, like,
I think
after
at night.
dark. It's not during the day during our peak
No,
hours.
no. They're talking
Okay.
about just
I was
the
like, oh,
evening hours, people coming to dinner, that sort of thing. What they're doing, they're just gonna have a company come in, have valet parking, like, where the dumpsters, where the striped areas on the ground right there, just have it right there. People pull up, they can park. What we're gonna do is we're gonna rent them spaces. If they circle down to the north lot, there's like 24 spaces, metered spaces. We're gonna close those off for them so they can have that and the travel lanes too. So they can park probably 35 cars maybe if they want to. And they'll just run them right back out, just a complete circle all the time.
And they'll
complete circle.
space.
And we get a percentage, right? But actually, it's
Yeah, it
like
is
a
dark.
fee. It's a fee that we will collect money for.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
No. All right, thank you. Thanks for your time. Electric utility. Uh-oh, here comes Mr.
Wait a minute.
I'm not electric. I just wanted to remind everyone, the City Tree Board a few months ago had allocated that $3,000 to go toward the city tree and landscape specification manual. And Jenny Powell from the tree board is involved in this whole process. And we had hired Lisa Hammer, the horticultural technician, to put that together. I'll have to find out what the current status is, because when we got the initial draft, it was not up to what we thought it should be. And Jenny Powell was in agreement with that. So we had to kind of toss it back and say, we need more. So I need to find out what the current status is of that. But you had brought up the landscaping and specifications, everything. So that is in the works. It's just,
That manual is intended for our staff or is intended for the public intended?
that is intended for our staff as well as any contractor who would have working in the city.
Cool.
For all of our properties, including the beach.
Okay.
So that is in the works. Actually, we are definitely paying attention. Absolutely.
Thank you very
Yep.
much. Cool. Electric utility fund. Mystery of the Ring.
You're up.
Now you're asking for 391,890. So what questions do we have for Mr. Liberty on the electric utility?
Just about the software and then the ERP and how that works together or not. So we have the 96,000 for the improving CIS software for customer service. Is that something that will go away once we get our new?
No.
No. Okay. So what's
That's it.
that?
That is an annual subscription fee. That presumes that we take what's called the CIS module, Customer Information System, and move that outside of Naviline into a new module that would be cloud-based, and that would be the annual subscription or management fee for that to be in the cloud, roughly 96.
Paying bills thing.
Correct. It's not for paying bills. This basically revamps our customer information system to link up with the other products that we bought, which were the modeling, the outage management system, the IVR, which is the interactive voice recognition system. It moves all of that customer interaction into a module that links well with all those things. Allows us to do the outbound messaging. It allows us to change our billing system, which is right now residing within Naviline. So recall that recently we changed our bill print provider. That's just the company that prints the bills. It's the generation of the bill itself, which resides within the customer information billing system, which has to be updated. So if we want to offer new products and services, certainly if we want to give customers an option for, billing where you have solar as a line item. If you want to subscribe to a solar-based PCA, for example, we can't do that with our current billing system. If we want to bring in more modern budget billing options, we would need this module as well.
With customer service, is there, and I don't know, because I have to call it, is there a place where, press 0 to talk to a human being, or is it all leave a message or be on hold?
I'm not an expert on the IVR, but I believe that ultimately, if you need to get to a human being, you can. The purpose of the IVR was to attempt to intercept most of the questions that could be answered by the machine. So we were previous to having the IVR, we were getting about 9,000 phone calls a month from 27,000 customers. That's now down to 4,000 to 5,000, maybe 6,000. So we've taken a big chunk of the inbound phone calls out. We don't know if that's 100% due to the IVR, but it happens.
What's IDR?
Interactive voice recognition. So we believe that it's helping to reduce the number of phone calls. You reduce the number of phone calls, you then reduce the wait time. If you want to further reduce the wait time, you have to add more technology. So for example, what we would like to be able to do is when we have an outage, and we know you have an outage because we've seen it in the electric system control room, we would like to be able to, through customer service, call you before you call us. We'd like to send you a text. We'd like to send you an email so that you know that we know you have an outage. So please don't call us and clog the phone lines.
Okay.
The only other way to really get the wait times down and the number of calls that are dropped down is otherwise just go hire lots of people with lots of phone lines. So we're trying to use.
Say, the past few weeks, my life has been filled with doctor's appointments and oxygen stuff. And it's really, really frustrating. Please leave a message, press 4 for this, press 5, but there's no human being and it's really difficult to deal with that. You want to talk to somebody. So if that's if there's an option to talk to a human being, I'm happy.
We handle hundreds of phone calls every day. And we're now tracking the wait time before your call gets answered. And it runs between 3 to 6 minutes.
And it's for the human being to talk to somebody.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The IVR, you're pushing buttons and getting answers right away.
All right.
So this is a part of that move to bring more technology in.
Oh, you know. And then other questions for Mr. Liberty as we go down to administration, engineering, power, Mr. McBoy.
A couple of things that I'd like to have us consider. Maybe a category of, I guess it's called memberships. There are a couple of organizations that I think would be worthwhile. I think they're probably in the range of 5,000 to 10,000 a year to be members of. One is the American Public Power Association. The reason I've mentioned them is that they have a national program, Smart Energy Provider. They recognize utilities, including very small municipal utilities, much smaller than us, for some innovative programs. I'd like us to be members of that and have that information available to us. It's another one called Smart Electric Power Alliance. These are all professional organizations. Again, I think their members on the 5,000 to 10,000, but I think it'd be worthwhile to do that in that context, not to add to Ed's plate because he's got plenty on it already. I'm very glad to see the additional staff energy conservation manager. I would change the scope of that a little bit to something like an energy innovation and resources officer. Someone whose focus is certainly energy conservation is part of it, but any forms of innovation that we can be looking at and that they might be, they would interact with some of the memberships, they would interact with self. And the other, so the price that's on there, I think is reasonable. But make the scope of that person a little bit broader. And then the final one would be, we've had a presentation in the past from Self, which we are now partnering with. The name is not quite accurate to what they do, but it's what they start with, the Solar Electric Loan Fund. It's the nonprofit bank that helps out with home improvements, energy efficiency. And they mentioned that it would be worthwhile. The number that sticks in my head was 60,000 to have an on-site staff person. And with what we're seeing with the Inflation Reduction Act, that there is a lot of availability of federal funds to come our direction, particularly for municipalities that are not as wealthy, particularly for municipalities that are looking to be innovative on energy issues. Self would be a very good partner. So I would think setting aside something that, we have to ask Self what it was, but 60, 70, 80,000 range would be a wise investment.
Mr. Liberty.
Let's break this many pieces to that. So let's break them all down one by one. First of all, in regards to APPA, I believe we already are members. I can check on that, but we're members of the Florida Municipal Electric Association, which is under the umbrella of the APPA. So I'm pretty sure we're already members, but I can recheck that.
Yeah, let's check. Pretty good.
The Smart Electric Power Alliance, I'm not aware of who they are, but there are many. And the APPA is great at advocacy, as is the FME, and does a tremendous job with advocacy for municipal utilities. And we've also gotten great value of them, but we can check into the Smart Electric Power Lines. Sometimes we have to, just to make sure that we're not joining an organization that has a very specific political slant to it, left or right. And we want to, we have to be neutral in terms of how we approach any administration that may be in office at that time. The energy manager, that is the title that we came up with, which is somewhat consistent with what those positions are known in the industry. And it is our anticipation, that person would be the primary interface with self. And that would be a big part of the role. So the self opportunity, should you choose to fund that out of ARPA funds, is beneficial because it can in essence act as the conservation rebate implementation side of the house. Their cost under they had 3 different tiers they proposed. That the one that we acted on, because we were not yet in the budget process, was a zero cost one, which, hey, we'll promote you on the website and we'll send our customers to you, right?
I think it was a good idea to have in person.
Great idea.
Now,
Right.
didn't we discuss this for the ARPA funds funding?
Right. The numbers that of option 2 and 3 was either $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year.
Oh.
And as you stepped up, you got increased levels of service. I believe at $100,000 a year, they would put somebody here or have somebody virtually 100% dedicated, which I believe because of all of the stuff that's been passed in legislation, which you'll get a briefing on tomorrow night. There's so many things and there's so much complexity to it. Customers are going to need to figure a way through that maze. And it's all things that the customers have to pursue themselves. I think they're going to need what I would call an ombudsman, if you will, to help them through that process. And I think self is one of the entities that could certainly do that. And they already have the infrastructure to do it. Although I assume that they're probably going to be hiring them. I haven't talked to them, but my assumption is based on what the law says and all the stuff that's going to be available. They're going to need help too.
And is this the conservation manager? This is different than a sustainability staff member, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. This is a person who's going to focus 100% on reducing our carbon footprint.
For citizens as well as the city.
Right. And I see this person probably will wind up getting a little bit involved with some of the technology things. For example, if we do go down the road of a demand response program, this person's probably going to be involved helping that as well.
Because that's a pretty high salary. I mean, I'm just saying.
These people command a higher salary in the industry. They're in a high demand nationwide. Especially when you had a certified energy manager, you're looking at some high salaries for these folks.
Okay. Mr. Diaz.
Yeah, I think you answered a lot of what I had in mind, especially on the self thing. I did tend to, I thought I remembered it being more than 50,000 for that middle bracket, but I do remember to hire 100 plus, which would have had someone 100% dedicated to Lake Worth Beach, and that might be something worth considering.
I mean, a lot of people need help.
Oh yeah, and for this, reading through for the conservation manager, is this going to be, among so many other things, this is going to be a step towards we had discussed previously about like improving our energy audit programs and doing more. So this is like a tremendous step for that as well, right?
Right. This person would probably take over the conservation group and manage the energy conservation team, which right now is 2 people. And we do free energy audits. And we do a lot of them. We do them on, and customers can also do their own online, right off the city's website. There's a link for that. Or if they call us, they're not sure how to do it, we'll do it online for them while we talk to them on the phone. And of course, we'll go to the property as well.
Okay. Ms. Stokes.
I know we've talked about this before, but I just want to double check because the name is Energy Conservation, but we also talked about they would be working with our water utility as well to promote conservation.
Yes. There's an awful lot of energy in water.
Okay.
All that water has to be pumped with electric energy.
And then so for the self, I guess what I would like to understand more between tonight and tomorrow night with the Inflation Reduction Act and all the things that might become available to us, does it seem likely that we might need to go to the higher tier? So bump it up from the 50,000 to the 100,000, if that's going to help us. Is that going to help us tap into additional resources?
I think it will, but I think in all fairness, we have to have a pretty detailed discussion with the folks itself, specifically Doug,
Right.
Who you've met my presentation here, and chat with him about, okay, so if we bring this extra money to the table, where is this person? How accessible are they going to be? And we want, not that we question whether they'll perform or not, but we're going to have a tremendous amount of demand, I think, coming from our customer base, particularly in the next 6 to 9 months, 12 months, as the rules finally get written and pushed out. People are hungry for this. It's going to put a big demand. So does he need that 100 right away? Does it come in stepped up over time? How would that actually work?
So what's your recommendation, Mr. Finance?
Mr. Money.
Mr. Money. Mr. Money Miller, for us. So right now we're allocating 50,000, but we're anticipating that it's likely we'll want to increase that as we learn more
If the
over
community
time.
can get a positive return on investment for that additional $50,000, is well worth the investment.
So do we do a supplemental budget request later, or do we try to set aside money now in
Well,
anticipation before we fall short?
I would take it out of the budget today and work forward.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but I do remember Doug saying how, well, with the middle, we did X number of houses, and then with the higher tier, we did.
We have a great need.
And then with
And
you-
I think it's something that we all
Yeah.
can agree with.
I would say that that's one of our, likely to be one of our better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The work in conjunction with the.
Right.
And the work as with the energy conservation manager. I mean, it just seems so obvious, like, here's your audit. You're doing good, but you can improve. Here's, someone that can help you improve, make those improvements.
I also see this person being very heavily involved with the utilities grant efforts as well. Not the citywide grant efforts, but the ones that are very specific to the utility.
Awesome.
So we're saying, Mr. Money, put aside another 50 grand. It's only 50 here.
Well, some of it,
Talking about big money.
I think we need to differentiate. Is it going to come out of ARPA funds or is it going to come out of the enterprise fund operating account?
I believe we can take it out of ARPA. I'll verify that. I know we can't subsidize the rate side, but we can, I think this probably will qualify, but I'll verify that and have an answer
Okay.
for you tomorrow.
Okay.
And it is an annual operating cost, so it's not a one-time thing.
Right.
It becomes an annual operating
I'm
cost.
wondering about the benefits of using ARPA instead of just using the excess
Right.
revenue funds.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of demand for, because on top of this is, the electric utility also has big O funding on the capital side. So we
Right.
just need to balance it all out. And so I might recommend a transition, but let me look at, and I'll talk to Ed, and we'll come up with a plan, but if we can take it out of operating funds, great, but I'm just cautioning, I guess, that potentially, and we also don't know Ed's final budget because the price of gas isn't known yet, so there's, so more to follow, but if we can do the $100,000 out of general revenues, we'll go with that.
What's your thoughts on,
I think I prefer that if we can. swing
Ms.
it.
Malega, are you listening in? I don't leave you out. It's so easy when you're zooming. Oh,
Oh, there she is.
yeah, she's,
Wait till the end.
yeah. Sarah? Whoops. Oh, there she
There
is.
she is.
Okay, have you been, hi, have you been listening into the 50 versus $100,000 for the,
Yes, yes, ma'am,
and you're with it, okay?
100%. Anything we can do, I've been promoting the self program in all 3 languages, and anything we can do to help fund that program, I think is just gonna be beneficial for everybody.
Right.
I do think that we should change the name from energy to maybe, can we change it to like conservation or utility conservation or something? Because I like Commissioner Stokes' question, like, does this include water? And I think that name needs to parallel so people know that it's both avenues. Any thoughts?
I'll be sort of here's my thought on it. Obviously, we want to encourage energy conservation in the community. I think we also want to encourage all forms of energy innovation. We've had a number of things that we've raised for Ed, and I think one of the comments, the messages that I've gotten back is Ed is extremely focused on hardening of the system, some of the reliability things that are really important to do, and some of these, things that I see on other utilities. I've been looking at Seattle, some I've looked at some in Vermont, with other places. It's just, how much can one person do? And that's where I would like to see the additional staff person be certainly part of their portfolio as energy conservation, working with customers, but also more broadly, helping to look at our overall system, whether it's grants, whether it's innovation, making sure that we're demand response, make sure that we're looking and that they have the energy and the expertise. And as Ed points out, that they're sufficiently trained, electrical engineering, masters and something else, that they're up on all those things. So my hunch is that there's enough technical detail to the electrical side that that person is going to be full on busy with the electrical. That leaves the water a little bit left out. But I think the best thing that we can do on the water conservation side would be to make sure that we get our AMI, the automatic meters, things that read the water meters electronically, pretty much real time. You can get that and get the feedback loop. When people have weird usages, it's probably a leak or other things going on, if that information gets back to, that's probably one of our biggest places for conservation. And that doesn't necessarily require us. So, if we have lots of resources, I would put somebody on the electric full on and then extra somebody on water. If we don't have enough to do both, I would put the electric. I'm a water guy, so it's not that I'm not into water conservation. It's just I think there's enough technical stuff on the electric side. It'll be hard to find somebody who's really first rate on electrical and has energy and knowledge left over for the farms. That's my thought.
What's your thought, Mr. Levine?
I think that the pool of candidates that you're looking at are probably the people that were on staff at the big performance contracting companies or on the utility side or municipalities. These types of people, for example, with our company I'm not going to drop names tonight, but the company that we did the existing performance contract with that led to our solar field, the lighting projects, the AMI system, and the HVAC improvements and lighting improvements. Those are the types of people you need to come in and find opportunities. And what happened in that particular case, now this is 4, 5, 6 years ago now, so almost 7 years ago, that company did an analysis here and we wound up maybe paying more for some things than we could have. We had really sniffed those things out and developed them ourselves and got that ball rolling. Granted, we didn't have the funding to do it, but so we needed some creative financing. But we need people that come from that background, that education, that certification, that can identify an opportunity for energy conservation or just conservation. And that included both water and electric opportunities, and said, hey, here's a way to reduce the carbon footprint through these conservation measures. And do that analysis and then link these things together to make them work.
So saying the one person that would hire would be capable of acting in both water and electric?
In many cases, they're cross-functional in there. That doesn't mean that water shouldn't have their own, but you're going to find somebody who's driven to find things that pay for themselves or greatly help subsidize their own way because they're driving innovation. There's an awful lot of data analysis that has to happen to pull data from all of the sources that we have and put it together in one place as if we do this, it'll benefit this, this, and this. And you also want to look outside silos. I don't think you want to say, I'm only going to look at this from the standpoint of a payback for electric on a customer. What about all of the other things that come into account, some of which may not have a dollar number associated with them?
Kim? I think we need to have another, I want to fund this position, but I think we need to have another conversation where we iron out some more details. Because I think there are a lot of things that we're hoping to do. We want to do our electric utility. We also want to do water, but we also want to make sure we have somebody that's like on top of the cutting edge kind of new initiatives. So from what I'm hearing from Vice Mayor McMoy is that energy conservation is probably a large part of what we want them looking at, but there may be other things out there that we don't know that we need them to identify and make sure that we're a leader in the industry. So do you think the traditional conservation manager also has the expertise to is that part of their job is looking, staying on top of going to the conferences and staying on top of all the newest trends and bringing back other ideas? Or are they just really focused on more traditional conservation measures? But maybe we need to have another conversation about this.
If you want me to wait, I did work with the people that Ed's mentioning quite closely when that was happening with the performance contract. And I think what Commissioner Stokes is saying is more what I have in somebody who's thinking much more broadly of all the aspects of innovation in the electric industry both how do you look out best for customers? How do you look out best for integrating new technologies? How do you look out best for environmental sides of it? And I think on the electric side, and it's got some policy aspects to it too. So I think that's probably a different kind of person than somebody who's focused just on the conservation. I think if you want somebody focused on conservation, you probably could find somebody who did both water and electric. That's a little narrower focus, probably easier to do. What I have in mind is a little bit broader. So maybe it does need a separate conversation.
I'd like to-
And bring back some people out in the industry and what their backgrounds and what their job.
I think it would be good to look at a couple different positions and what their job descriptions are. And we as an entire commission can say, this is where we want to head.
Mr. Diaz.
It kind of sounds like both of you are you talking about a sustainability director? I mean, we've had that conversation before, and it sounds like kind of what is being brought up is leaning towards that. And I think we've talked about it in the past where if we had another director who's kind of like a high level, looks at everything, policy, customers, everything, and saying, you know, where can we improve on, you know, I think that's a conversation we should definitely have.
So for now, Ed's request for
Energy conservation.
energy, yeah.
I'd say keep the money in there. Maybe we have a conversation as to exactly how we spend that down the line, once we have a better idea of what our options are for position.
Mrs. What's your feedback on all this?
I think you should have a discussion on what you want to accomplish. I actually,
Guidance to you.
truth be told, I actually was instrumental in building a rather successful consulting company doing just this. So this is quite normal. I've interfaced with folks like this, and I've hired them, created them, and built helped build. I didn't do it solely, but helped build a very successful consulting company that was later on sold at a very healthy multiple in this business. But you have to decide exactly how far ranging you want this to be. I think we also have to be careful when we talk about innovation, not to be trying to innovate things that are going to happen 20 and 30 years from now, as opposed to what we can do today, because we're not an R&D organization, right? We're a small utility trying to provide services today that help customers today, and maybe next year, the year after, or 5 or 10 year horizon. But for example, we would probably not want to get involved in debating whether we should have a small modular nuclear reactor in the city or something like that, right? We have to keep it closer to the reality. We've got lighting projects, we've got water conservation projects, we've got things we can do to convert more vehicles in the city to and transportation to electricity, right? We'd like to see reduced greenhouse gas emissions in the city. So what are the things that we can do more immediately? There's a huge amount of low-hanging fruit, just trying to get through what we have in front of us today, let alone trying to think we're going to innovate to the next. We're going to design some new light bulb maybe or something, but I'm exaggerating obviously, but we have a tremendous amount that we can do today that's virtually shovel ready. Somebody just has to pick it up and get going. And absolutely. And there's a lot of data that has to be extracted from our systems. So you can figure out, well, where are you going to get the best bang for the buck? And what I mean by that is not just conservation for conservation's sake, but for every dollar invested, which dollar invested gives me the biggest reduction in CO2 emissions, which gives me the greater good, right? Not just which reduces other.
Some would be that's not just
exactly. We
can help.
Right. We have to prioritize what first thing we have to do when nobody has talked about this. We talk about solar, we talk about other technologies, but we really need to be talking about is what are we trying to do? Are we embracing solar just because we like solar? I don't think we should, but it's a great technology. We should embrace what gives us the biggest amount of carbon reduction per dollar invested, right? Per dollar that we spend. What gives us the biggest bang for buck? It happens to be solar. So let's keep going down that path. But we should be looking at lighting projects. We should be looking at HVAC in our customer location. We're looking at customers that have chilled water systems and saying, how do we get more value out of helping them reduce energy use? And air conditioning, how do we get more people in central air and things like that?
Yeah, I don't necessarily see the conservation manager and the sustainability director as like two separate things. I feel like they would work hand in hand. I feel in my opinion, basically, is if we had a blank check and we can have everything we wanted, we would have that sustainability director who's looking at policy, looking at funding, looking at everything overall high level. And they would be working with the energy conservation manager, water conservation manager, and just kind of coordinating. Because I think what Ed said is a very valid point of we don't want to make decisions case by case. We want to make sure we have an overall plan on policy, on spending, how do we make improvements, and we need to make sure we're following that plan over the years. So I don't necessarily think a conservation manager, one precludes the other. I feel like it's just all improvement.
Okay,
I think
right.
this is going to become more important, kind of jumping ahead to something I know Commissioner Boy has been attending the meetings on. We talk about where do we want our carbon footprint? I call it the glide path to zero. How are we going to get to zero? When we talk about zero emissions, you'll realize when you listen, a lot of people talk about zero, they've now inserted the word net in front of zero. So they're not really going to zero, they're getting to net zero. And as you realize, like, what does that mean? So for example, getting to zero might mean we go 100% solar and nuclear. What you're going to see as a part of the integrated resource plan is that's going to be phenomenally expensive. When you read between the lines, a lot of people are talking about net zero. So recognizing that I'm still going to be using energy sources that produce greenhouse gases, but what other things am I doing that are in my direct control that net those out much lower? So I get to a net zero. So the ability to net to zero is going to be very important because you're not going to be able to get to a true zero without a really huge expense.
Yeah.
So this person is really going to help us get down that path to net zero. It doesn't mean we're not going to have emission reductions. It doesn't mean we're not going to do a heck of a lot more solar than we're doing today or batteries, but we're going to have to be talking about things that are going to actually reduce CO2 emissions to use those reductions that we can control against the things where we're going to have some carbon fuel.
So getting back to our list here. So where are we at with funding the 139 for this
Yes.
energy conversation manager? Commissioner Malega? I don't want to forget you. It's the being on Zoom.
I think she said she was for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I said I'm for it. I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's a yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Are we going to keep going down this training, engineering, power generation?
When you say electric vehicle, you don't mean an electric car. It's a vehicle for electric.
It's an electric vehicle.
Oh, okay. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, we are taking the position. I've taken the position that I don't want to buy a vehicle, an electric utility that's not an electric vehicle.
Optics.
It could be water. I want it badged as an electric vehicle. So I appreciate the concern that some departments have about being able to operate the vehicles in a hurricane. But I point out that even the cheapest electric vehicle that we have is a 200-mile range, and we live in a 10-square-mile service territory. So it would be highly unusual that we'd be without power for so long and have driven so many miles with electric vehicles that we couldn't get to the point where the power came back on. We also have a generator at the 9th that will help power, that will help recharge these vehicles. In terms of getting up and down the alleys, and I've pushed back on my own staff. I walk around a little bit, drive around a little bit. I can easily see the other end of the alley. So for the work that we need to do, we can park at the street and walk in on the alley. I don't need to drive the vehicle in for this type of vehicle. Now, if we're talking about a bucket truck that's going up in the air to work on a pole or somewhere, that's an entirely different thing. That needs to be up in the air. But for a lot of the work that we do as electric utility, having electric passenger vehicle is sufficient.
Commissioner Stokes.
Just curious about, I know we approved I think the NERC compliance managers and stuff last year as part of the second tie line, if I'm remembering correctly, that we need more staff to help us make sure that we're complying with all those additional requirements. So are they out in the field a lot? I'm just curious why I don't know anything about their daily job. So anytime, I'm just curious if they're traveling throughout the city regularly and their own vehicle?
They do travel back and forth between 1900 and the control room and also to the various substations and transmission stations. So they can run a Hypoluxo at the canal, main yard. The electric system operations control and where it is today and where it'll be in the future in our offices. And also point out that these vehicles are not for the exclusive use of that one person. So we put it down, but it's really another pool car. So we keep a pool of cars, and all of the electric utility employees can access those cars. So you may have certain cars that are used frequently by one or two people, but you have other cars where somebody says, I need a car once a week for an hour. So we have a pool of cars they can take them. So this is not a car just for that one person to drive around.
Thank you. So are we okay with the full 391, 890 from Mr. Liberty?
It is with the budget.
When we took 50 off, right, for the self?
I thought we were adding 50.
We're adding, oh, that's right.
We're adding 50 with some question as to whether we can fund that out of ARPA.
Right.
But prefer not to if we don't have to.
And let me
There's varying opinions.
and let me add on the electric vehicle too. The compliance manager is going to be heavily involved with the centralized transmission operator function, which is going to be in Orlando. So there may be meetings that person needs to go up there for compliance related meetings. So they'll be traveling, and I've done the trip myself in the past. You can get there on one charge.
I was gonna say.
And recharge at the hotel and come back the next day. So
Wow, okay. Thank you. So moving right along. The next one in my pile is the funding sleeve, what we talked about the other day, the mobility plan, the housing initiative, the ARPA funds,
Oh, what's the IP? Oh,
CIP 2023.
Yeah, we can either go to CIP or what I would recommend. What I would recommend is just going over the fee schedule. Just so that you get an idea of what you're looking at.
Okay.
Because that will be a public hearing, and you can discuss it
Okay.
and further at that
Okay.
time.
Can we take a 10-minute break? Miss Davis is all in favor of that. Okay, thanks. Madam Clerk, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. Mike's.
Noted, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay.
It's like
Somebody's gonna have to unmute the commission from the laptop. Oh, thank you, Alfonso.
Everybody, we are skipping now to the fiscal year 2023 schedule of fees and charges for services. And who's going to give us the presentation? Our Mr. Money.
The one and only. So I run out of it.
Now, this, my understanding is the internal auditor has had some input into this, and he's been working on this as well.
He's doing a review. I don't know if he's issued it of the fees and whatnot. But directly being involved in the fee schedule, no.
Okay.
So what we did, well, there's two schedules. You have and the landscape schedule that shows the changes between last year and this year. Right here. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then you have the fee schedule itself, which has the City of Lake Worth logo on it. And that's the schedule.
Okay.
Okay. So,
That's a
yeah.
thick book for 7:38 at night.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth in that, if it's okay with the city commissioners, I would just like to highlight the changes, because we still have the capital schedules to go through. And if the capital is anything like the supplemental budget request, we got a little bit of time in front of us. So,
Tell us about the change.
Yeah.
so, they go by department sequentially as outlined in the fee schedule. So for example, if you go to the page 1 of the fee schedule, it's you can see the correlation between what's on the fee schedule and what's there. So the first change that is being recommended is mean search from 110 to 125. And that's residents and differentiated between residents. No, I'm sorry, that's all. Everybody combined, right? So that's anybody who is requesting a mean search, it goes from 110 to 125. The next one is the regular utility, 0 to 85.
I'm sorry, Bruce.
I'm going to speak to that.
Okay.
Evidently, we're going to have to do some review. The schedule that we have from fiscal year 22 does not reflect it. However, the city clerk believes that that amount was not 0.
Oh,
So there was.
No, it was $75.
oh, okay.
So we're going to have to verify that. The $70 to the building fund, 220 to 250. And then the rush, same conversation as the standard request from 0 to 85. There is a current amount, Melissa, of how much?
Yes, 150. It's currently 150.
Okay, to 170.
These are
And these haven't been raised in 10 years.
Right. And they're not giant raises.
right. I think we're pretty good with those.
Yeah. So, all right, let's keep moving.
Yep, cemetery fees, you'll see 150 to 350 to 200 to 400. Residents and non-residents is the differentiation. All other unsold lots for adults, except for veterans, 750 to 1200, 950 to 1450.
So the 2 is not really 2, that's really the comma that corresponds to residents versus non-residents.
Right.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
These are actually already in effect. So these are just like the numbers you were talking about.
Right.
These are currently, there's no change here.
So currently it's 950 and 1450?
Correct.
Okay. Alrighty. Unsold lots and veterans parts,
We went up quite a bit on that.
$100.
Oh, wait, no, yeah, the dash.
Right. And then installation of veteran stones and markers, 100 to 175.
So these are currently in effect.
Oh, okay. Well, that cuts it down. Candidate, okay, quality.
Very good shape, I'm sorry.
Come on up.
This is exactly. So it's my purpose.
That was approved last year.
Well, then, we'll just get that straightened out. Okay. So candidate. I don't know what that means. Candidate qualifying fee.
25 to 100
What's driving that increase?
for the amount of time that it takes to, these are all time
Mhm.
related, cost of service related. So it's not willy-nilly,
Right.
well, we're going to increase $75.
And just for clarification and just for the public, it's my understanding that we, when we charge a fee, there's no profit involved. What we have to, what our job, and I guess what the auditor is doing as well, is looking at how much time, staff time it takes to do this task and then charging for that time.
Yes.
Okay.
Fees.
It's not like you just make a number up.
Right. Fees should minimally cover the cost of service, cost of business.
Right.
And that, depending upon how you want to calculate the cost of business, it's not just the hourly rate, it's also benefits, it's also
Sure.
other costs that are associated with that employee.
But just so people understand, we're not making these numbers up. They're based on actual
No.
real numbers. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Leisure services, going down, starting with deposits for the athletic fields. Again, these are all deposits. It's not the cost. So 100 to 105.
2 went down.
2 went down from 125 down to 105.
Looks like somebody wanted all of these.
Yeah, and there's some consistency now.
Okay.
The lights,
I have a question, since they are deposits. Is there a reason for the extra $5? Like,
That gets returned
it
to
all gets
people
returned to them.
if they leave it in a good way.
yes.
Do we have a lot of instances where
I'm
we end
not
up having to
really,
keep?
I can't really speak to that. I'm not
Yeah.
really familiar with it.
Leisure services, you're up.
Typically, on fields, there's usually not, it's very, it's not common that renters or permitters will leave the field a mess, but it does happen occasionally.
Okay.
And then the $100 we
Correct.
charge them.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Lights, all fields. So that means if you want to have a nighttime softball game or baseball game and we have to turn the lights on, that's the fee for doing that.
Correct.
Okay. All right, we have a conference going on over here. Serious talk.
Mhm.
Okay.
Trying
so-
to solve a mystery here, but
Okay.
okay.
No, we're just going down the list now for the user fees for the fields and things.
Am I reading this right? Are we adding adult soccer next?
That would be ideal, is to increase our adult athletic activities that we offer.
Now, I'm
Idea.
told along those lines that some of our fields, like the Northwest ball fields especially, are very heavily used by very organized adult soccer teams up there with, they just put up goalposts and take it as we have a hand coming up here.
Ideally, that is true. However, that's not level
No,
playing
it's
surface.
football. It's
Yeah, it's not turf. However, it's better than them jumping the fence at our other parks.
Or digging up Bryant Park,
Correct.
which was happening.
Yeah.
So, and I think we talked last week about ARPA funds. We're going to look at the uses of the Northwest ball fields and any changes in So that's it. Come on up, don't be. In 25 words or less. Just introduce yourself first for the public.
Chris Anna, Park Superintendent of Leisure Services. I know there were a lot of, I guess, questions and concerns last week in regards to the lighting, the athletic field lighting. That's all the information I have that I compiled. So I don't know if you want to touch base now or later.
About what?
The athletic field lighting, the cost associated with it was $656,000.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a lot of light.
Yes.
That's a.
Yeah, so correct. So I don't know if you guys got these printouts that I had sent in. It was just 3 pages rather. Let me just read it. Sorry. The 656,000 estimate encompasses replacing the existing outdated lighting fixtures with new energy saving LED fixtures, utilizing the current ground poles for the 4 baseball fields on the south side of 22nd. So that's kind of what that covers. Did you want to?
Well, okay, question. Are you talking about replacing the one, it's the north side of 22nd, correct?
No,
The south side, okay. And that's, how many fields are on the south side?
4.
4, okay.
Yes.
Are those the most heavily used ones?
Yes, throughout the year, yes, that was kind of the focus of, let's go with the fields that are the most often used.
Right. And then the replacements that you're talking about, is this something that's sort of immediate, or do you think, because I think we are talking, we're going to take the Northwest Ball Fields as a project, as a topic of conversation. And we may, I don't know, we're going to, how that would fit.
I don't know if
Yeah, I think we had mentioned like phasing it, like, so it seems like you're describing a 656 as 4 to 4 baseball fields.
Yes.
We had brought up potentially like, can we phase it like one part of the field at a time to spread the pain, but yeah.
Because we're looking at the north side of 22nd to be used for perhaps different uses. Adult soccer.
This was right. This was kind of separate of what you guys were talking about last week. So if you want me to stop or keep going,
25 words or less.
you could phase it. However, it would be much more expensive due to 1, inflation, 2, mobilizing the job site where they would have to come back, year after year. This 656 was for a one-time shot to replace the 4 existing fields. There are some current issues going on with the lights. Just last week, we had a pole go out during activity. We were able to resolve it 2 days later, but it failed due to the age, basically components inside.
These are the fields where the shroud has literally fallen to the ground
Right.
from like 100 feet or however
Yeah,
tall those things.
there's ongoing issues. Really, I would say at all the fields to some extent, just because of the age. But again, the focus was the Northwest Ball Fields just because they were so heavily utilized. Our thought was the wear and tear aspect of it, turning them on and off almost every night is gonna, start to create some issues.
Because they're not LEDs now, there's.
Correct.
So I'm just, I don't have one for you. You're not getting one. We need one more.
Oh, no, we're just passing that one on.
Oh, I thought we were.
All right, so but that conversation doesn't relate right now to the fees schedule?
Right, no,
Okay, yeah.
not necessarily, no.
Where's the 650? Where's the
It's
number?
not here, it's not on the.
Oh,
That was part of our ARPA
Okay,
conversation
I'm sorry, okay.
But some of these fees would
for
go.
the light.
And did we get, this looks like a cut sheet from, particularly from Municipal. Did we get quotes from other people?
We didn't, only because Musco is kind of the industry standard. Boynton Beach, West Palm Beach, Palm Beach County, municipalities down in Broward. It's pretty much standard.
Okay. So get back to our list of fees, user fees. So let's look at like adult flag football. Is that 400 for a resident, 450 per season, per weekend, or what?
That would be per team. So that's per team for a season.
And a season's how many?
That's typically 10 games
Oh,
during the season, and then a playoff or final.
and does that actually cover our cost? Because it seems pretty low. It's like $45 a hit.
Well, typically that would we would break even. So there would be no potential
Which is what we're
revenue from
supposed to,
that.
right.
Yeah, so that's actually what we want.
Okay.
And
Eh.
youth football went up quite a bit though.
The tackle football. Yeah, tackle football did go up because of their growing. They've basically increased to, I believe, over 200 kids. And so those pads and helmets are expensive. And I think they keep increasing the safety standards on the helmets. So every time they do that, they have to actually purchase additional added features to upgrade the helmets
From us or in general?
in general.
Yeah, we don't, okay, we don't.
Correct. Yeah, it doesn't, we don't do it.
You're talking about youth football.
Right, so these fees, it's not, so for the sports leagues, it's not just like the other things, staffing and time, it's also like their shirt and their jersey or whatever. It's all that
Correct.
stuff, right?
Mhm. Yep.
But that's, I'm confused now. We're going, let's say from 85 to 150 for youth football resident fee. That's just for use of our field.
It's more because I mean, as youth football is a partner. So it's a sports partner as well. So
Is
that money does not come to us. So if we're talking about tackle football, that money does not come.
Jaguars?
Correct.
Okay, so, but the Jaguars buy their own, I mean, I'm just confused. They buy their own helmets and balls and things. We don't provide them, do we? Or do we?
We don't we do provide them funds. A portion of the funds. And then they're basically, we provide the facilities as well. But we don't actually collect the fees. They're their own entity per se.
Right. That's, okay, so they pay us, let's say $150 for a season for youth football.
No.
Okay, so what is this?
What is
mean?
They're a
Thank you.
they're a nonprofit. So because they're a partner with the city, we have to include what they charge.
Okay, so the family pays for their child $150 to
Correct.
the nonprofit.
Yeah,
It goes directly to them, but it has to be listed in our schedule of fees.
correct.
And so that nonprofit is increasing what they're charging, so we have to reflect that increase here.
Correct, because we actually have to audit them. We actually audited them a month ago to make sure that they're charging what they say they're charging, and those expenditures that are going out, whether it's the football pads, the football helmets, that we have receipts from all of those things saying that that's exactly what they're spending those monies that they're getting from us on.
Okay, so the 150 is per child.
Correct.
Okay, it's not per, because a little bit above it's per season, so this is a little bit
Yeah,
different. Okay.
yeah.
It'd be helpful if it said.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions?
No, not on that part.
Okay.
Looks like we're.
Zombie run. We eliminated it. No more zombies. Thank God. No.
We did have one, but it's we're just a little bit too busy because now we do have a haunted house that we're planning. So it's hard to do all of the Halloween activities that we have planned, including the holiday yard decorating contest.
Mhm.
So put that on your calendars because we will need some judges as well.
Oh, how do we influence people? And just a shout out to the ladies of the community. Don't forget the German witch dance, which won't cost the city a thing. We're gonna go back on Facebook with that. There's a lot of enthusiasm. for that.
You're gonna have to Wikipedia that one.
Oh, it's fabulous. I'll send you the link. It's hysterical. It's about 7 minutes of pure fun. So Senior Social Club, $20. What is that? We charge them $20
Correct.
for the annual, okay, so
Mhm.
they pay $20, they participate, that's the jazzy
Yes.
ladies, okay. And the art class, that's a charge that we charge them. Okay,
That's reduced, right?
going right down the Osborne half room.
We basically changed, in the past, we've listed the room, because it has partitions. So that we could, separate it. However, we've never had anyone rent a room and just use a portion of it.
Be noisy if two things were going on.
So we just basically eliminated the fees associated with just renting a portion of the room. So now that it's just a full room that you can rent.
Okay, but this is zero.
This is eliminated.
Yes.
All right, if that's not in the notes,
Yeah.
Right.
it
Okay.
just looks like it's, you
Okay.
can do it for free.
Right.
Okay, so there's still a charge for it.
Yes. Yeah, there is a fee.
45, so if I wanted to rent the Osborne.
It's $80,
Oh,
The whole room.
the whole room.
So they're eliminating the half room as an option.
Correct.
But this, okay, this is 100. So if I wanted to rent the gym or the community center, it's $45.
No.
Explain.
Is it, let me know, maybe the fees are correct.
No, it says half room. So it's 40, it previously it was $45 with a $100 deposit to rent half of the center, but
Yep.
nobody ever rented just a half.
Right.
Correct.
So we're putting it down to zero, and the column next to it, we probably should have seen the word eliminated,
Right.
like we did with the others above.
But are we not, so we're not charging, I'm
We're not.
being really stupid about this. I apologize.
Not the entire,
Right, no, I understand
Yeah.
that, but we're charging $45 to do it.
right now,
Right.
but we're eliminating it as an option.
So, but it doesn't have listed what it is for the full room.
I think,
Right.
Because
think-
that hasn't changed.
well, yeah, this is just.
Just the
reflecting
changes.
So if you go to page 8,
That's
you'll
right.
see that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I only have
Of
Four
this
page.
big packet.
the big one.
the big.
Yeah.
pack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the gym is 250, 500
Yeah.
deposit, 80.
Yeah. Yeah, the full room rental has not changed, and that's why it's not on your, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you. Bryant Park Pavilions, now 40 and 50. Sunset Ridge, Memorial Park, okay, you're going up very little.
And those are all based on what other municipalities charge for their pavilions.
We're not charging for the pool yet.
Wow.
So we preemptively sell stickers.
But you can invest in the pool.
Can.
You can get a little brick with your name on it in the pool. And we need to look into that. Pier parking pass with pier access was $5. Now it's $6.
that,
It's interesting.
Parking.
I'm gonna look into that later, not now.
Hi, Larry. Come on
Oh,
back up.
Okay.
Yes, it was at $5, now to $6, just for maintenance, personnel costs, that sort of thing. That's all it's covering.
So what is this parking? So they don't have to pay the regular parking fee?
Right. What they do is they get 4 hours parking for $5 now. This is going to go to $6. That's all.
Start at a certain time at night?
No, they do anytime during the day. Time they want to go
Okay, so if
fishing.
I want to go fishing, if I want to walk on the pier,
That's just $1.
that's to go on the pier.
Right.
But how does the parking meter know that I'm gonna be charged?
What you do is you walk up to the pier and they issue a little yellow pass.
Mhm.
And it says 4 hours of parking. They fill it in.
And then
Has
go
all the
back to-
information on it. Yes, put
You
that in
do
your
it back
car.
to your-
You have to put that in your car. You're good for 4 hours.
Okay,
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 that's all.
thank you.
Sure.
With that plate reader, that's a quick one. Go in there, get your yellow ticket.
Yeah, and these days I don't walk that fast. They're really good. Okay, so prepaid parking rates for individual parking spaces. It's. Tell me what that means. Between 2 and 5 an hour and 1 to 5 an hour. What?
Oh, that's just a range. For example, if we want to ever raise it in the future, if you ever said, we want to raise it from $3 an hour, which it is now at the beach, to $3.50 or $4 or whatever, we have that range. That's just a range. That's all.
Okay, but it's $3 an
It's
hour
three-
now.
mhm.
And there's no maximum amount of hours. Somebody could keep coming.
Sure. Some know.
Okay, beach parking. Okay, beach parking.
Do we have? Oh, I see employees. I was just curious, like what do we do for the employees who work at the beach businesses and the parking?
Right. That's done by contract, actually. It's $40 for each employee that they have at one of the businesses
Okay,
at the beach.
monthly.
Right.
Okay.
And we just charge a monthly fee.
That's a
And
big
we-
expense.
That's by
Especially
contract.
in services.
Mhm.
A lot of people work at those places. Okay, hang tags. Okay, the next two, hang tags issued on a case by case basis. What's that?
Right. What it is, though, that's just a physical actual hang tag. It goes over your mirror, your rearview mirror, and you can fill it out. We can put like whatever amount, if people need to pay for it, pay a fee for it, or just we can have it free, however we need to fill it in, but just like a write-in kind of a thing. Just something we can. It's not that often, but once in a while somebody will say, hey, I want to pay for maybe a day or two at a time. It's like, yeah, sure, you can pay a day or two. We'll just give you a hang tag. That way you can fill it in and say, okay, you're good between 8 and 5 or whatever hours, days or times we want to make it.
Instead of putting it into. the
Instead of
parking
putting
meter
into
itself.
the system itself.
And how
Correct.
would our read that? They'd have to, because they don't back in, so they wouldn't, now we have a reader of the license plate.
Correct.
And how would that,
Because what happens is you drive by with the LPR and it goes zing, zing, zing. And then my guys would get out and they go, oh, this thing is a hang tag.
and now we have $0 to $300. What are we paying? If you know, what are we charging a yearly resident parking pass now?
Per resident,
Yeah.
the beach
Full-time
permit
resident
now,
charge, yeah.
$60.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
not going up.
No, none of that's changed. I think still all the same.
Okay.
In fact, the only fee that we did ask for is the $1 increase pier parking passes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. And people, just for the edification of folks, people can go to the little building on Lake Avenue and buy in person a parking.
Mhm.
Okay, and they'll get a sticker.
No stickers.
Yeah, we have stickers. Don't you start.
We have a few decals, but we really haven't had too many people ask for them.
A lot of people
But they
didn't
are
know,
there.
and we,
They're there.
that, I have to say,
They're
that
there.
was kind of an oversight, I think, on our part. When this year, when that started, because many of us have like their entire windshield lined with
I know.
residents. It's a pride thing for
I know.
for the city, so
We've got a few if they want them.
we're gonna advertise that again. Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Is there a minimum? For a while, it was our minimum, is that the thing?
That's if you pay by credit card. If you pay by credit card at the beach,
It's
like
$6.
Park Mobile, like that, it's a 2 hour minimum or right. It's a 2 hour fee or
So-
through the meter.
$76 for 2 hours. If you pay by credit card,
It's
it's
2 hour.
$6, $2,
it's 2 hour minimum,
2 hour
right.
minimum at $3 per
Right.
hour.
Okay.
And that
No, it didn't change. Mm-mm.
Okay,
Okay.
I appreciate the range, but let's not, the $5 an hour would make us very unpopular.
well, I think, I mean, some places are more than that. I think which is $10.
Yeah, Phipps Park is $5 an hour.
Yeah,
And Boynton, the little Boynton down by Manaus, not past Manaus, I think it's like $10 just to get in and park.
oh, yeah, that's a park entrance.
I'm not suggesting we do that.
Yeah.
But we're not overpricing ourselves. And someday we're going to talk about parking downtown. Parking fees downtown, but not tonight. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Golf.
That's a huge, this is crazy.
What?
The golf. Everything else is like going up $10.
I'm sorry?
All the other things were going up like $10 and this is like our annual member cart included is doubling.
Okay, I think we have someone representing the golf on.
So-
Matt?
Yeah, Matt DeRosa, golf course manager. So it's not doubling. The way that it was worded previously, had it as, you have like a member fee plus a cart fee. So what I did was just combine the two into one line essentially. So
Oh, okay.
so like our annual member with the cart included, basically unlimited golf for a year was 2,900. And now it's 3,150.
Okay.
What is the difference between an annual fee and single player and player with partner?
So that's actually a trail fee for Lake Worth Beach residents. So if you own your own golf cart and you want to play golf, you have the ability to do that with your own golf cart, not using one of the cities. And so it'd be 1,500 for an individual and 2,500 for somebody with their partner.
Okay, so the single player from 800 to 1,500, is that a
Includes
number
golf.
combined fee?
It was, yeah. I actually reduced that a little bit, looking at other golf courses who offered this type of service, and because we only offer, because not everybody has their own golf cart that actually golfs. We only had about 4 of these members that paid for this, so this price actually went down a little bit, and to try to help out the residents that actually want to do it. It's a really fair offer.
So are you saying that most people that are resident members bring their own golf carts, or do they use ours? Which is the majority?
The majority is they use our golf carts. So we only have currently 4 people that have their own golf carts that pay for this membership.
So if I was a resident and I needed a golf cart, I would pay the city and $31.50, and that's unlimited rounds of golf?
For the year, yes. We also offer daily fee
Right.
pricing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, not too many public courses still offer memberships like that.
Yeah. So daily fees are going to for 8 up to 50. I'm just looking at all, there's a lot of numbers.
I know, I'm having a hard
Yeah.
time parsing everything.
Right.
Yeah, so essentially, like, most of the memberships went up $250. We didn't increase our rates last year. So yeah, I mean, that's just pretty much off the demand and what Palm Beach County is offering for golf. I mean, since COVID, it's taken a complete turn. Before COVID, golf courses were, failing. And now, I mean, the demand is through the roof. So it's 250 increase for our memberships there, except for the trail fee option that I just was explaining. And then as far as daily fee pricing, that was a smaller increase, about $5. Depending on the time of the year that you play, we have a range in there, which allows me to offer discounts and specials, during slower times, but mostly $5 increase across the board for the daily fee pricing.
Do we break even with the golf course?
Well, the last few years we've made some money. We actually have a fund balance now.
This first line item under daily fees looks more like a $15 increase.
Yeah, it went from 35 to 55 for 18 holes non-resident.
And
Isn't that 35-55? Isn't that 35,55?
yeah, but then if you look in the next column, it went from 50 to 60. So it went from 35 to 50, or from 25. The middle one.
So essentially, it's the last number. So the 50 to 60, or I don't have the sheet in front of me. I'm sorry, but
So we're looking at
yeah,
the
I mean, the bottom number, we really don't use that very often.
Okay,
But
that's
it's just,
a lot to parse. Like, there's a lot of dense
fun.
information here. Okay, so essentially, Cliff Notes is about a $5 increase.
correct.
And then it goes down between April and September.
Yeah, depending on what season we're in. So like summertime's our slowest
Right.
time, and we're one of the most inexpensive courses in all of Palm Beach County. I mean,
Okay. And for being a golf course on the Intracoastal, I think we need to look at improving our golf course and raising the whole thing about the golf course, because it's a beautiful, beautiful place.
I couldn't agree more with you, Mayor.
Yeah. Okay, so the employee rate, that's nice. We have an employee rate. Does that include a golf? If I want to come and learn how to play golf, do I get a golf cart for $25 or $15?
Yes, you can certainly do that. Although I would recommend a driving range first, but
Can't I just rent it, pay $25 and drive around? I've always wanted to do, I'm gonna do that thing.
All right, I'm good on golf if everybody else is. Yeah, and we can move to
Okay.
Public Works.
Public Works.
thank
Jamie.
you.
Thank you very much. Compactor rates, what?
We went from 0 to a lot. So what is this? Yes, it's
Right.
right.
That's the kind of mayonnaise your brown is.
What's that?
Tell us what they are. What's a compactor?
Okay, so we did not have compactor rates before because we did not have compactors in the city that the city owned. So this past year, we actually purchased a compactor up at the beach at the casino property. So we could actually do a lot more cardboard and a lot more material. So now we have compactor rates since we own a compactor now. And we're looking into more another location in the city in the future.
So this would be charged to the business.
Correct. This is just another option.
And is it the same dash means resident versus non-resident, or does it mean right?
No, this is up at the beach, so this is only for commercial customers. This is for our casino property.
What? What's the range? Gets you to a wide range.
Size and I think Barry's place would use less of this than La Playa.
Well, I'm not looking at the sheet, but so you have multiple, just like with any of our other commercial options, you have multiple frequencies throughout the week. So 2 time, 3 time, 4 time. So correct, the pickup frequency. That's correct.
But would the gift store pay the same as Betty's?
Correct.
Do they each have their own compactor?
No, there's one and there's, oh, thanks, sir. Let's just say one I have, Bruce. Yeah, I love this stuff on here. Yeah, so it depends on the actual property and who's actually utilizing the compactor. Right now, it's mostly Benny's and the taco place. La Playa.
I don't think the taco place.
I was drawing a blank. Yeah, La Playa
Now I
and
need.
Benny's.
Okay, but and I'm just, again, so the 660, is that per year?
These are monthly rates.
Monthly rates?
These are
Okay,
monthly
so
rates, correct.
Barry, the gift store is gonna pay $667 a month.
They're not utilizing it. So this is for the actual businesses that are utilizing the compactor. Correct.
Okay,
Correct. So for the businesses that do not utilize the compactor and don't need it, they're not gonna
okay.
pay these rates.
And the waste removal fees went down $100?
You're talking about the 7 time?
Changed to 1 cart 2 times a week, waste removal.
You're on the next page.
It's 3.
It's right under the
You're
compactor.
looking at what we're looking at.
No,
No, I'm looking at the actual
Oh.
fee schedule.
Oh.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the actual fee
It
schedule.
went from the,
I've got this is page 33 on the fee schedule.
All right, you're 33.
we're on 3. All right, so it has waste removal fees changed to 1 cart twice a week. It went from 142.53 to
Correct. Previously, it would actually said we changed the language there. It actually said 1 to 4 carts before, twice a week. And what we did was we got rid of the 1 to 4 and we actually changed that to a per cart fee. And we lowered that 142.53 to 46.13 because that's a lot easier to actually manage. It makes more sense to do it that way.
refuse, decorative dumpster wraps. We're not as strict that I don't.
Just as a footnote, the second fee down for is 2,550, not 25,000.
Wait, lost. Where?
Yep, it kind of like jumps out at you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, unless you guys want to prove.
Yeah, we're really friendly to businesses in this town. This is for anybody. This is I call up and I have a big pile and I need you to come and take it.
What are we on? She just
It's
mentioned the
like
decorative
reference
dumpster.
fees, 2 yards.
This is the dumpster.
We're gonna, he's
2
gonna,
years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years.
no, that's yard.
Oh, oh,
That's yard.
damn. Yeah, I was like, oh,
Yards.
we're paying for
All
yours.
right, so back to the dumpster rates, because we just mentioned decorative dumpster.
Okay, so
Okay, so for the dumpster rates, nothing has changed. All we did was we added, we had 2 time, 3 time, 4 time, 5 time, 6 times before. There are businesses that utilize 7 time a week service. So all we did was we added that column for the 7th time.
So is that a monthly, let's say 1,700,
That is monthly, correct?
2150. So a restaurant downtown is spending 2150 a month. I'm just picking a business out of the air. That accurate?
Which, when you're saying 2150, which, what are we looking at? Which column?
2 yards. I don't think the decorative dumpster is blank. We're talking about.
Yeah, so you're talking, this is the decorative wrap. So what this is basically in locations. Yeah, yeah. And I was looking at, I thought we were talking about the actual
Use.
dumpster fees and the quantity. So what this is in locations where when we have developments coming in, where there is physically not enough space on the property
Mhm.
to place a dumpster enclosure,
Mhm.
we would have to look into doing some type of decorative wrap on the container so it wasn't an eyesore. But in order to do that, we would need to also have the approval of the building department, because more than likely you would have to do a variance, because based on the number of units and the number of parking spaces that are needed for that property, if we need to have an actual enclosure, they have the ability to say we can subtract 1 space if necessary and do a variance so we can actually build the dumpster enclosure. So this isn't just like for anyone who just says, hey, I want a decorative dumpster. This is for those particular situations where
Can't have it.
you literally can't have it.
Okay.
And that would have to be the building department also saying, we're not on board with.
They'd have to have a reason because
Correct.
We're pretty strict about dumpster enclosures.
Exactly. And we would like to do everything possible to make sure every dumpster is enclosed and not have to ever do this if it's not absolutely 100% necessary.
And do we wrap any of our big garbage trucks?
Yeah, we wrap all of our trucks.
Okay, so next year at the Street Painting Festival on Dixie Highway, we'll have a really pretty wrapped one blocking traffic.
Yes, ma'am.
Same.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All of the trucks are wrapped.
Thank you.
So yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So, see, big jumps.
Vice Mayor, I don't think your mic is on.
You're correct. I'm just trying to understand the difference between the first and the second column, which I believe is last year and this year proposed. And some of them go up quite a bit and some of them don't. Of the different yard things.
So we're back on we're still the decorative.
Still wrapping the dumpsters.
Okay. Now, this was not in here previously.
Right.
So this wasn't on here last year, the decorative dumpsters.
What's the first column and second column?
Yeah, it says one said like the 2 yard is 1,700 last year allegedly, and then 2,150 this year. Just here, just your column.
I mean, I feel like it is a little bit confusing just because decorative dumpster wrap is in bold, so it looks like we're charging $2,150 to decorate a 2 yard dumpster. But I think am I reading this correctly? Where The 2150 is for removal of a 2-yard dumpster.
It's to wrap it.
No, this is for the actual wrapping of the dumpster itself. We'll have to look at what we're showing for the previous year. I'm looking at it right here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so these are not just to have the pickup or whatever. This is if you want to.
If you want to.
Expensive.
correct. And again, this would be in those locations.
Building department, you say, I don't know, waiver for enclosure.
Mhm.
They do an analysis and says whether it's an appropriate thing.
That is correct.
If you don't get an enclosure, which costs money,
Mhm.
costs you spend money on, make it pretty.
Correct. And again,
Put that off.
correct. And these would be those certain situations where we literally cannot physically fit a dumpster enclosure on a property. There are a few on Dixie Highway that come to mind. And we would have to run that through the building department to make sure that there's no way possible we can make that work, even if we have to eliminate a parking space or two to make it fit. And the other part of that is obviously making sure that, especially on our commercial properties on Federal and on Dixie, it's actually safe for our vehicles to service those dumpsters without having to actually back out into traffic, or there needs to be a way that we can ingress, egress without putting our drivers in danger. So that's a part of that as well.
Good. Thank you. Okay, community sustainability.
Might I suggest something? I just wanted, I feel like we're at a very slow pace here, which is good, but for community sustainability and observation that I just made, it seems like we either went from not having a fee to having one, or having a fee to not having one. So in general, it doesn't look like there are a lot of
What this means.
changes. It just looks like we're maybe retiring some old fees and adding some new ones, and we kind of trust that we've, set them out appropriately.
Yeah, Mr. Waters, we're a little confused here.
Can you just tell us they're all very reasonable? And
What's a local product approval?
Yes, that's what I was wondering, maybe the same thing.
That's a building fund activity, and a local product approval is when someone proposes something that does not already have a Florida Miami-Dade certification for use. They can get a local product review and approval from our building official. It does not happen very often.
What kind of products are we talking about?
It could be an unusual window, a door, there may be a material that has not been used extensively in Florida yet and does not have its product approval or its Miami-Dade certification. It might be a type of roofing material. It varies, but like I said, it doesn't happen very often.
Is it going away? Because we have like the current amount is 1,500 and the new amount is dash.
Well, I don't have access to what you're looking at, so it's not going away. We are keeping it, but we are looking at probably a cost recovery fee versus a flat fee, because some of the product rules we need to send out to an outside consultant to review.
So if I have let's say, a historical home and I want to use an odd window or an odd door or whatever, I've got to pay the city $1,500 to ask permission to do that?
You may.
Okay.
but make friends.
Yeah, it's a little hard because we do have one, it looks like one year we had fees and the next year we didn't. And there's a few where there was no fee, added legal description. We've added a fee for that. Added performance standard review is $1,000 now when it wasn't anything last year. This chart may be needing a little.
Well, there are some new fees based on the ordinances that are coming up. That performance review standard fee is for the application that's item number 17 in ordinance 22-14, which you have not passed yet. If it will not be instituted if you don't pass the ordinance. But at the time the fee schedule was being done, those ordinances were going to have been completed and be in effect. So I needed to have a fee representative of it.
What is an added performance standard review? So.
Line 17 gets to the sort of the paper that a developer will write that covers 10 points as to why that property or project is appropriate for Lake Worth Beach. We talked about it at a workshop. at the second reading. It was requested that it have more information. It's coming back as a first reading on September 20th. Those areas of concern are like environmental sustainability, cultural resource appreciation, historic resource appreciation, social justice, recreation. There are 10 areas that need to be covered in a little report submitted by the developer.
Is this for large scale development only or?
It's only for planned developments.
Okay, yeah, okay.
You'll also notice a fee for the affordable housing program, which is not in place yet, and a couple other smaller fees that are new associated with those ordinances.
Okay.
All right.
I might follow up with some additional questions, but I think I'm good for now.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think we don't feel particularly qualified to look at this table and say anything very insightful.
You've stumped us, Mr. Waters.
That was not my intent.
Well, it worked.
Unintended consequences of it. Yes, I mean, how to review a program application for parish for preparation of restriction covenant and necessary agreements. That's new.
We've had several of those that far exceeded the way we could charge for them in the past, and we were not getting a cost recovery or anywhere close to it.
And 1,500 would be a cost closer to cost recovery.
Yeah, because both staff time and legal time are involved.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions on the community sustainability section of our budget? Anybody? No,
Not now.
I think we're gonna have to like. Okay,
Madam
where are
Mayor,
we at?
just real quick, understanding some of the frustration that we'll clean this up, try to make it a little bit more user friendly. Well, our staff will work with other staff to make it a little bit more intuitive.
Great, thank you.
That'd be good.
One thing to highlight on that note, when there's, and this has come up a couple times, but one thing that could make it easier, and I don't want to put on like more work on you guys, but whenever there's something that corresponds to another bigger piece, like if you had like the corresponding page numbers, that would be really helpful, because trying to rifle through this packet was.
Well, that's one of the things that we said,
Okay.
you get the page numbers down so that the reader can go to specific detail. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
and now we go to the big book.
And then one other thing too, it's just consistency of different departments are filling it out in different ways, and a dash means one thing for one department and instead of a comma. Like sometimes a dash represented a range and sometimes it was resident versus non-resident. So if we could have a standardized formatting
Yes.
across departments.
And if you take a look at the fee schedule, I think we might be able to work on that too. It's just, it's, as you said, different departments use different formats.
Yeah.
So I think if we can come up with a standard format, I think everybody would be happier. From user to the commissioners.
5-0 vote.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna sort of set that. It all sorts of stuff out.
And capital. Is that this one?
Yes.
Let's do the button.
It's got colors at the top.
Colorful at the.
I thought we were on the big book.
Did we kind of went through this?
Okay.
Oh, we can figure out a way to make it hard for you, Madam Manager. Don't jinx us. Don't jinx us.
Isn't this?
I was pretty hope.
I know.
Can we just do this?
No, we did want to look a lot like it, but not the colors.
Is this just the outcome of the ARPA
Yes.
conversation mostly?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thanks. Looks
Yeah.
good. Okay. But these are the numbers that we came up with.
Yes,
last
ma'am.
week. And it all adds up to a number that was within reason, within our. scope.
Well,
Oh, I don't.
I will do a very, very quick overview. Okay, you are in the boundaries for ARPA. Okay, so if you turn to page 5 of 5.
Okay.
Actually, the bottom of line of page 4. and you go to the ARPA column, you will see that,
Third from the last.
13,000,000.
13, right. Right. So your recommendations from last week totaled 13,607,000. Okay. So as you know, we have what I call the standard deduction of $10 million. You basically can use it as unrestricted, pretty much can use it for any purposes. And then you have more of a restricted pots of money.
Right.
Because social services, I'm going to just broad for water, et cetera, et cetera. So we allocated $13 million of total ARPA funds. However, $2.5 million for the housing initiative and $1.2 million for stormwater projects.
Those are in the restricted.
They are in the restricted. So I took those amounts, subtracted those amounts from the 13,607,000 and came up with 9,857,000. So you're right below the $10 million threshold of unrestricted monies. The next set of numbers is, if you remember, we received $19 million in change. We used some of the money for, just call bonuses, it's not the right word. And then we paid $50,000 to the housing advocacy legal aid. So that brought that total available funds down to $8.3 million, 8371088.
Right.
However, from that, we have to subtract out the 2.5 million and then 1.2 million. Okay. So in the restricted bucket, there are $4.6 million of remaining funds to be allocated, but you have to allocate it to restrict those restricted purposes.
Which is infrastructure.
It's more of, again, community services,
Oh.
water,
So we still, so
broadband.
bottom line is we've got about $4,621,88. $4 million.
4.6 million.
Thank you very much. I
Round
like
it.
a math.
Just round it.
That we have an now that we still have to play with.
Yeah,
Okay.
community housing, infrastructure, I mean, the
But that's
broadband.
Restricted. category.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And we talked about,
Been out, and you looked at all of the ones that we set aside and said anything that fits in the restricted, toss it over the restricted.
Yes.
So, do you have any other questions?
we did talk about the $2.5 million and checking up on, because we were expecting a match and then we didn't get that. So that, I know we said we'll set it aside for now and then we'll deal with it later, but
And the other thing, and the young man from yes, recreation.
Yep.
We did not fund the
That's right.
650 to 680,000
For the lighting.
for the lighter. So
that's why we call them assets. And Bruce calls them liabilities, because every park and playground and everything we build, we're gonna have to pay to maintain and upkeep and replace down the road. So we are very proud of all of our assets. And it now it's time to pay off.
Right.
And that would be in the unrestricted.
That's unrestricted, right? And I can't think of, and I hope if Chris is still here, if he can think of any restricted pots of money, but it's typically capital infrastructure is typically not, captured. Right. The only thing that's capital infrastructure, again, is the water, stormwater type activities. Then you have the broadband activities. Everything else is pretty much unrestricted.
Okay, so are we okay with this?
So I
Right.
want to make sure.
This is just,
656,
yes.
are we going to fund that? Both?
Well, if you fund it, then we're gonna have to take money away from other places.
No, I thought we had $4 million.
No,
That's restricted.
you have about $150,000 of unrestricted.
Unrestricted, no.
It's that 9857, which is almost 10. Difference is the unrestricted, it's like, which doesn't get to the 6.
And one thing that isn't reflected, it wouldn't be capital, but wasn't reflected in supplementals, we had talked about like the grant program for social services. Right, and at the last budget meeting.
And that grant program, if designed properly, could come out of the restricted. I think we could take it out of the restricted pot of money, we have $4 million. So you could develop this pretty robust program.
Okay, so are we, where are we going with the 600 and something?
So I guess what we're left, if I understand right, because I think we're all starting to date. Is we pretty much allocated out of last week's meeting, the 10 million unrestricted. There's about 150,000 left, which is pretty small potatoes, but you could do something, but you can't get the lights.
We'll
Can't
try
put the
to,
lights under the restricted fund, so if we want to do the lights, something's got to get kicked out of the unrestricted fund.
Very well said.
well, we're
Couldn't
gonna
say it
try
better
to get this area to maybe partner this on the mobility plan. If we have a little, it's not a
Which would be-
650, but it can help us towards it. Jamie's not gonna get his fuel tank and we're just gonna lose our insurance. There's just not, I think we'll have to look at this,
Closer.
but because we can't just cancel all those programs, or is it other people that use the ball fields?
Yeah.
Or are those our programs that
Palm
we
Beach County,
offer?
Palm Beach State.
Those fields, those 4 are contractual with our sport provider, FIPS, youth baseball and some softball.
And
You know,
those mostly are loan residents. Or the
it's kind of, it's a split. They're based out of West Palm. So the majority of the, I would say, participants are West Palm kids, but it does feed into that whole north area of town for Lake Worth residents and, and families coming to the area, moving here. Hey, where can my kid play baseball? Basically, you either have to go to south. Yeah, you have to go to Phipps, basically, in the area. I mean, you can go out to Oak Healy, you can go to Boynton Little League on Woolbright. But realistically, Phipps is the closest for Lake Worth.
Is for Lake Worth. But is there any way the county or anyone else might want to help us out if we're offering this? This isn't just exclusively for our.
Right.
Good West Palm.
Yeah.
Lauren applied for a grant. Did she not?
For this?
I believe so.
I think we did. The issue with, I think, getting lighting grants is that it was just like a competitive market, and Palm Beach County, their athletics. I talked to the manager over in West Point today. A lot of their fields are getting the Musco upgrades, as well as other facility amenities and such. But as far as lights go, I can tell you that the Musco guy that I spoke with yesterday, Friday, extensively, they're pretty busy. There's a lot of municipalities upgrading to the new, energy saving LEDs, like you'd mentioned. So really, this kind of comes down to, like you said, infrastructure, keeping, what we have working, and performing the maintenance on it. And in this case, they've exceeded their lifespan. And it's at this point, it's really replacement. Luckily, we're in a position where the poles are good enough, so we don't have to replace the poles. That would be a whole different cost. But really, it's kind of a thing for recreation in the city to provide an adequate and safe environment for, kids or adults to play on.
How many lights are we talking about?
Well, that would be each pole would have about 5 or 6, depending on where they're located. I don't have those specific numbers of each pole. The breakdown is for 4 fields.
Madam Mayor,
So each field, I'm sorry.
the resident expert says if it's depending upon the part of town, there might be some flexibility to pull some money out of the restricted funds.
Oh.
Because of like impacted.
Yeah, there's,
Impacted areas.
Oh, right.
And your flexibility.
Okay.
and these new LEDs are really going to help with the spillover aspect of, people driving by, and then also the glare aspect when, you look at the field and it looks like a illuminated, sun almost, where these are much more directional for the field of play.
What if, and I'm just, out there, what if we just replace that are broken and let it not be everything, just not upgrade, but just.
That's what we did this last year to the tune of, I believe, $16,000. Unfortunately, that cost is just going to continue to rise. And then also, we're at risk of, like last week, full entire posts go out during activity. And then also the falling, bulbs, which happened twice since the last 18 months. So I would, anticipate seeing that continue as, things are aging, rusting apart. The connections are, going bad, and the wiring.
I mean, I think we're all, it's almost $700 lights. Seems like a lot.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go down the home. But, or a flash strap pole. How often do these fields get used at night versus during the day? Have you done the day?
A little bit, yeah, during the day. I would say nightly, you're looking at about 250 nights a year.
All 4 fields.
Not necessarily all 4 fields, but I would say 250 nights a week, you will see lights on at least 1 or 2 of those fields for activity. We can, that touches on his, question of piecemealing it together. I will say that fields 1 and 4 are a little bit worse off, that I've been having issues with. I can tell you that fields 1 through 3 were installed in the year 2000. So they've exceeded their life expectancy by 2 years. And then field 4, we actually don't have the record of it. Musco couldn't find it either. So it would exceed the 22 years, which makes sense because that was the field that went black last week with the wiring issue. But yes, I don't know if you got, did you get?
Hey,
one?
Matt, you mind if I chime in?
Sure.
Sorry, out of my camera, I got connectivity issues, but I wanted to let Chris get some experience at the podium. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I've been dealing with those 4 fields and lighting going on 15 years. So the same problems that Chris is explaining are the same problems that we've been band-aiding since I was a recreation manager many, many moons ago. And he's touching on the part, very important part, is that now we're having physical light fixtures fall during play, and we're having physical lights go out during play. So it's not a matter of if a kid's going to get injured, it's a matter of when a kid is going to get injured. And if it wasn't, and the opportunity because of the ARPA opened up the conversation to bring this capital forward, or it's a pretty difficult predicament, because then we're talking about potentially not having the programs at all because it's gotten to that point now.
But if only 1 or 2 fields is being used at night.
Well, what happens is you got to remember that that's usually for practice and regular games, but we also host tournaments where all 4 fields are activated, and there's economic benefit that doesn't get touched upon much that happens from the activity of having youth athletics come to town. Now, even though West Palm Beach, we partnered with years ago because baseball kind of lost its traction in the city when soccer and other sports took over with our demographic. However, there's still the opportunity and we still have the availability for anyone who lives in Lake Worth to participate because they're treated like residents in the West Palm program. So it's kind of like mi casa, su casa kind of deal where we partnered with them many years ago because we just couldn't get the numbers and we were facing the probability of literally shutting the fields down and reprogramming them for other purposes. Now, I think our partnership with West Palm and Phipps, I think we're going on maybe 6 or 7 years now. And they drive parents. When we host these big tournaments, they go to our downtown. Eventually now with the hotel, we can have a bigger role in youth baseball tournaments, which are a huge economic driver once the hotel opens. Because when we host tournaments, a lot of the visiting teams that come from out of the area, they have to stay outside of Lake Worth. They're staying in hotels in West Palm, Boynton, and whatnot.
Mhm.
So it's not just about the practice nights 1 or 2 times. It's a bigger picture, and it opens up the possibility to explore how do we maximize these assets beyond just what sounds like a couple of practices a night. Much greater, bigger picture conversation that's before you. I hope that
That's
helped.
helpful.
Madam Mayor, just as we said earlier, we will definitely look at all the funding options and we will also explore if the restricted funds can open up for us.
So we don't have to
Well,
decide this tonight.
That's right.
So let's stop talking about.
I'm all.
I wouldn't put it that way, but we're going to explore all options that way.
Can I say something, Madam Mayor?
Hi there, Miss Maliga.
Over here in Zoom land,
Yeah.
as a parent who has used those ball fields for something that it wasn't supposed to be used for, which is soccer fields. I can tell you that having, 3, 5, 6-year-old kids up there running in the dark and they use the outfield, not the infield. There's a huge risk factor when we don't have lighting because those fields aren't always at the best, well-kept, manicured positions that we wish they were in. So
We're talking about the baseball fields, not the.
I understand, but the baseball fields are used by the soccer league as well. And that's why I want you to know it's not just baseball that's played on those fields, it's also soccer. Story Soccer uses those fields at least once a year, sometimes twice a year for their so they every quarter they move around the city. And they do use on the baseball fields, they use the outfield as the soccer field. So there is a liability factor that I want us to be mindful of on that. That's all.
I feel like if we don't replace lights, we're gonna cancel programs.
Yeah,
Not
no,
gonna,
I
like,
think we
keep the
probably
program
need to
going
look
in
at
a
it.
dangerous situation. So it really comes down to.
Tasking staff with finding the money.
I mean, I don't know anything about sports lighting, but I just Googled athletic field lighting systems and Musco certainly comes up first, but sportlighting.com, stoutslighting.com, centurysportslighting.com. I have no idea how competitive they are, whether the quality is good, ledspot.com.
I can certainly look into other.
Here, Chris, let me speak to that really
Yeah.
quick. And that's a good point, Commissioner McVoy. Here's the comparison. Howard Park on the south end, we installed Musco lighting 15 years ago. We don't have nearly the problems that we experienced with the older traditional type of lights that we have on the north end of the ball fields. Musco lighting also allows us to control very specifically and precisely when those lights turn off, when those lights turn on, because it's all controlled off of our laptops. So it brings forward the technology. And then at the end of the day, dollar for dollar, the Musco lighting is the best product or a Musco type. I'm not a rep for Musco, but we have a field at Howard Park that's the lighting that's there. And apple to apple, the life expectancy on those Muscos far exceeds the old traditional. I've already forgotten. It's been too long. Since I've been in leisure, the type of light bulbs that we use up there. I mean, those are even hard to source. They're so old.
Right. The south field, is that the ones that Musco did, are they LED? One?
Did we lose one?
You lost one. Okay, I'm assuming they are.
I believe they are. And like he said, whenever they're top of the line, whenever there's an issue. They will actually email me, contact me and say, hey, we noticed an issue with field, Howard Field, pole number 2. We'll send a technician out there tomorrow,
Wow.
to fix it.
So they maintain it.
They maintain it as well. There's a 25-year warranty on that field because they installed the posts and the fixtures up top. So they were able to extend the warranty from a 10-year to a 25-year because they know what they did from the ground up.
And that would be including the 600.
That would not be because we have the existing posts. We have the
Okay.
existing posts that are already there, which in a sense saves us the money for an installation like a brand new field.
Right.
But on the flip side, it would keep our warranty to a 10-year parts labor, any issues type deal with the 10-year.
Can give us estimate or whoever. If we move to new poles, control that expense, but if we get a 25-year warranty instead of 10, is it worth? I don't know. We can come up with the money,
Yeah.
but it's useful to know. The poles are 10,000 a pop.
Well, I bet they're more than that.
Too
Right.
many people on the Wi-Fi.
What?
Too many people on the Wi-Fi, he said.
Too many people on the one. Okay.
I think one of the main issue I see with that, with replacing the posts themselves, would be having that whole place as a construction zone. Realistically, I mean, if you're just doing the fixtures, they can work during the day time, whatever 9 to 5, and then still have activity, on 3 of those 4 fields. But if you start taking down posts, you need to bring in, heavy machinery.
It's really in a room toward the back.
Brian?
Oh, no. Well, Brian's probably good at poles too, but
And but they'll certify if we go ahead with this, they will take a look at our posts and go, it's in good enough shape to use.
Yeah, they already did that last year with me when they did this whole analysis of everything, of the lighting levels, the age, like I said, the age of everything, your connectors, and then with the whole kind of breakdown here, he gave me, certifying it because they're responsible for it for the next 10 years, so they want to make sure it's working.
Okay, so where are we at with, what's our next step with this?
We will find.
Staff is gonna find the funds. All right.
and push on the Musco guys, see some way of them to get a 20-year. Or something. Maybe they want to redo the wiring, but they're okay with the pole or who knows what. I don't know.
Just because they'll take pity on us because we're just a poor little city.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
I have my marching orders.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, where are we at?
Dinner time.
Do we have, I'm getting very uncomfortable. What are we doing with this
We're good.
giant book?
I think we don't have to do the job,
We don't have to do the giant book?
correct?
No, that's a compliment to the spreadsheet.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. The, not the abridged version.
But if you would like to do the.
I would not like to do that.
Then you can meet
Yeah,
Mr. Mudge's
exactly.
office for 5 hours. On your own.
So, okay, another good, maybe the past couple meetings have been great. We have been nice discussions. We're moving right along. We have things that we're working on. It's cool. I probably won't be at the electric meeting, utility meeting tomorrow night. I'll be in the hospital. I'm getting admitted tomorrow for surgery Wednesday. So if I'm in a really good mood, I'll visit you for my
Like
hospital.
probably, it sounds like definitely you won't be here tomorrow.
I hope so. I know. I want to get ready for the meeting on the 7th. I've got to.
See you next week, Ben.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself.
Rest up, don't, I think the electric is pretty.
It
straightforward.
seems like it's pretty straightforward tomorrow night. So
That's what we always say.
he says, ever the optimist.
You're working.
Okay, so thank staff. This is, long night hours and a lot of prep work. I know that, and I really think that we all appreciate what you've done and how you've set us some goals and some guidelines, and very much appreciate that. Do I have a motion? Do we need one?
Do we need to do any more on this one? Are we pretty much done? Yeah.
I think we did it.
I'm with her.
We did it. It's done. Let's not beat a dead horse.
All right.
Quality of the what?
I wanted to agree.
Well, you and he can meet privately and do that. Do that. So thanks, everybody, really. I'm glad that we're, how many more, is this, how many more budget meetings are there?
I don't even know.
After this, you have hearings.
On our regular scheduled meeting.
So we've pretty much done the homework and gone through.
No more workshops for at least a month. From anybody.
Really. Give me time to recoup. Well, we have identified a number of workshops we want to do, so it's gonna be busy, but give me a chance to like come back and walk around town.
So,
Do we need a motion?
just call it.
No motion, Madam Mayor.
All right, so I'm gonna say it loud and clear. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.